Chapter 1. Jikenhanton. The forest had been obliterated by the two powerhouses that were facing off against each other. Sakura, Kakashi, Yamato, Sai, Niji, Lee, Guy, Tintin, Gaara, Shikamaru, Ino, Choji, Tsunade, and Sasuke had been watching the battle unfold for over 2 hours. Madara Uchiha in his Akatsuki robes and orange mask, and Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze wearing the same outfit that his father had worn were at a stalemate. They stared at each other for a moment before resuming hand seals. Suiton Daibakufu no Jutsu. Water type, explosion skill. The two pillars of water that they had created clashed and exploded. At that moment, another explosion rang out from a mile away in the undestroyed portion of the forest, and a few minutes later, Kankuro, Temari, Kurenai, Hinata, Shino, and Kiba appeared. Naruto's gaze shot towards a group of spectators and then back to his crimson-eyed foe. Damn it, thought Madara. I don't know how he did it, but if I try to use the Mangekyo Sharingan again, he'll just break Tsukuyami and use that technique to force it back to a normal Sharingan. And I'm nearly out of chakra. So now you're the last one, Madara. Naruto said, you're the last member of Akatsuki. You know that this battle is inevitable, Naruto, he spat at the whiskered blonde. You won't kill me. Naruto frowned for a moment and said, I've already taken the abilities your Sharingan gave you and added them into the equation. You don't have much chakra left, let alone to prevent this next technique. Suddenly, behind Madara, a Naruto Kagebunshin had popped out of the earth and went through a few hand seals. Suido no Jutsu. Water prison skill. A sphere of water surrounded Madara and trapped him. Damn it. The real Naruto smiled. You still can't kill me, you brat. I am immortal. Naruto's smile grew a bit. Kinda like how Kyuubi was? He asked. Kakashi, Tsunade, Guy, and Yamato knew what he had just implied. Naruto, please don't do it. Tsunade yelled. That would make 4 people I've lost. But Naruto had just finished the hand seals. Fuin Jutsu, Shiki Fujin, enchantment spell, dead demon imprisonment. Behind Naruto, invisible to all but Naruto, Madara, Sasuke, Kakashi, Niji, and Hinata, was the god of death. I'll say hi to Jiraiya for you, Oba-chan, Naruto said. Then everybody realized what was about to happen. Almost all of you, Naruto said. Naruto, Sakura cried out. Please. She fell to her knees knowing that the next few minutes were her fiancé's last minutes on this planet as she stared at the ring she had been given just a few days earlier. I love you, she whispered. I love you to Sakura. Naruto said. The Shinigami had just finished his ritual when Naruto dashed towards Madara and ran into the sphere of water and grabbed him by the shoulders. Once that happened, the clone Naruto had summoned disappeared and the water prison collapsed. The Shinigami grinned and reached through Naruto and towards Madara. Naruto smirked and said, he feels like you cheated him with that Sharingan's ability. Madara's eye was filled with fear and Naruto glared at Madara and his permanent Sharingan. But you'll die as well, he yelled frantically. I already know that I may be leaving my family and friends here, but I'll be joining others in the afterlife, and I'll finally meet my father. Besides, if you had your way, I would have died when you extracted Kyuubi. Madara began to hyperventilate, and Naruto smirked again. Don't worry, Madara. You're only going to be sealed inside of me, inside of Kyuubi's cage. Seal. The Shinigami quickly tugged Madara's soul and into the seal on Naruto's stomach, and creating the same seal on top of it. Before the jutsu was fully completed, Naruto quickly retreated into his mind. When Naruto arrived in front of the Kyuubi's cage, he chuckled softly. Madara was in the corner in the fetal position while Kyuubi laughed at him. Madara had tried to use a Sharingan to repel the fox, but nothing worked, and Kyuubi knew why. It's the seal, you idiot. It prevents you from using your chakra for a while, and therefore negates your ability to control me. Madara whimpered when he saw Kyuubi bare his fangs in a low growl of laughter. After 18 years of dreaming of my revenge, 18 years of being sealed in Naruto all, because of you, will be paid back. With one smooth motion, Madara Uchiha, the most powerful shinobi yet, was eaten by the fox he had once had control over. Not bad for an Uchiha. Tastes a bit like a cat. I hope you enjoyed your last meal. I did think. Last meal. Naruto looked slightly embarrassed as he rubbed the back of his head. Damn it. Can't we both agree to not use it unless absolutely necessary? And it was necessary, you dumbass. We both know that this was the only way to actually beat Madara because of his damn Sharingan. Then let's use my jutsu. No, we finally beat Madara, and if we go back then, there's a chance that we might not be able to do it again. True, but what about your life? Kyuubi had decided to pull out all the stops in this conversation. Your friends, your family, your future family. Sakura loves you, and if you leave her, it will crush her heart. When she thought she loved Sasuke and he left, she was devastated. Now imagine what she might do if she sees her true love that had just proposed to her throw his life away. She might do something that could hurt many. Kyuubi didn't really care much for the pink-haired kunoichi that Naruto had loved and thought of for a decade. But he did care for himself and had slightly started to see the boy as a type of son. The type that you're disappointed in, but a son nonetheless. Naruto had flinched at these comments and didn't have anything else to say. Don't worry, kid. You'll have all of your knowledge and power, and your body may change slightly, but other than that, there isn't much to worry about. Now, whether you want to or not, this is happening. Kyuubi roared as his chakra quickly engulfed Naruto. Madara's body had collapsed when Naruto's body started to change. He was screaming out in pain as it started. His body slowly began to contort until he was starting to look like a mini Kyuubi with 6 tails. Everyone gasped as it happened, and Sakura began to cry when 2 more tails appeared. The now transformed Naruto stood up on 2 legs and began to do hand seals. What jutsu is that? Sakura asked the 2 Sharingan wielders. Can't follow the seals, they both said in shock. After 1 minute, Naruto stopped on Tiger Seal and said in a demonic voice, Oni, Jikenhanten no Jutsu, Demon, Time Reversal Jutsu. Question mark. Everyone was shocked to hear this. He's reversing time. Kakashi yelled in disbelief when he felt his chakra leaving his body. He's taking chakra from everything. Sasuke exclaimed. Why is it doing that? It's what this jutsu does. Gaara said. The wind had picked up and was blowing towards Naruto. I remember hearing Shikaku considering using it. The jutsu takes chakra from everything within a mile of the user, and I mean everything. Shikaku couldn't use it though. It required too much chakra to use while being sealed in a human. Kyuubi, however, has enough chakra to initiate the jutsu successfully without dying. However, it's never been done with a Jinchuriki, so there could be negative side effects. So what's going to happen? Sasuke asked. He's reversing time so that none of this actually happened. We will never know of this timeline and its events. We will revert back to whatever age we were when the jutsu is finished. He, however, will retain both his memories and his abilities. So, he's pretty much pressing the rewind button of life? Ino asked. Yes, but like I said, mentally, he will be the same as right now. Physically, Sakura asked. A mix of how he is now and how he was when he was however old he was when the jutsu stops. And us? Hinata asked. Shikamaru sighed. You weren't listening? This never happened and hopefully never will. I'm guessing that he's trying to change things so that the future is for the better. As he said this, everyone's eyes had landed on Sasuke. Let us hope that he does. Ino said. Honestly, he's kind of cute now. Sakura glared and was about to say something when she heard something. See you soon. Then there was a flash of white and then nothing. Naruto felt like his limbs were on fire. What the hell? Just then, memories of his conversation with Kyuubi assaulted his mind. I can't believe it. Naruto yelled as he sat up. He looked around the room he was in and quickly realized that the jutsu had obviously been successful. Yet, something was different. He had felt this feeling before, but it hurt more when he used it. Kyuubi's chakra? He quickly went into his mind to find something that shocked him. The Kyuubi's cage was open, and there was a small one-tailed fox curled up in the corner of the room outside the cage. "Hey, Kyuubi." The fox lazily opened an eye. "Hello, Naruto." The fox's voice seemed less foreboding. "What happened to you?" Naruto asked the now chibi-like fox. "Well," the Kyuubi stood up and stretched in a feline manner. "The jutsu may have had some unexpected results concerning me and you. I have a bad feeling about this." Naruto sighed. Kyuubi walked up to Naruto and sat back down in front of the blonde shinobi. "Indeed. Well, usually I wouldn't have had a problem with the Jikenhanten, but it has never been tried by a Biju while sealed away. You already told me all of this before we fought Pain." Kyuubi growled at the young Namikaze for interrupting him. "Let me continue." Naruto stayed silent. "Anyways, when I activated the jutsu, I noticed what started to happen right away." Kyuubi took a deep breath. "I am dying." "Thanks for your concern, kid." "Well, you can't exactly blame me for not being broken up about it." The small fox chuckled. "True. At most, I have about a month left." "Why are you dying?" Naruto interrupted. The former nine-tailed fox stared at his host for about a minute before chuckling. "While possessing you by forcing so much chakra into you, the Jikenhanten forced your body to permanently absorb the amount of chakra into your own spirit. Normally, this would kill you instantly, but the jutsu had a filter effect on my chakra and successfully changed it into your type of chakra, although it is a lot more potent than it should be." Naruto thought for a moment before speaking. "How's this going to affect my body?" Kyuubi grinned. "Theoretically, the Jikenhanten would have slightly altered your body to suit some of your knowledge, but not too drastically. Thanks to the transfer of power, your body has undergone a transformation." Naruto's jaw had dropped at this. "Don't worry, you're still a human. Just this time, you'll look better." Naruto stared at the fox demon, searching for anything that would give him a better idea of what the fox was implying. Kyuubi used the silence to continue. "Your strength will be immense, as well as your chakra control, despite your increase of chakra capacity. However, you will still have your limits." "What about my healing?" Naruto didn't want that to leave him just yet. "You will still retain the healing ability that came from me, but from now on, you can call it a Kekkei Genkai." Naruto was shocked that his healing ability would be able to be passed to his children. "Also, another part of your newly formed Kekkei Genkai is pretty much a copy of the Rinnegan, the ability to use all the elemental chakra types. Thankfully, it won't be one of you to just do that are so pathetic." "Awesome." Kyuubi's sweat dropped as Naruto began to jump around as if he were 12 again. "Will he ever mature?" "Geki," Kyuubi yelled. Naruto stopped jumping and looked toward the fox. "You won't have the elemental chakra ability for a while, and when you do receive it, it will still take immense training to actually be able to use it to your advantage." Naruto nodded, yet he didn't seem deterred in the slightest. "You currently have the healing ability, but you won't receive the element ability until you've absorbed my final tail. Each of my tails is condensed with chakra, and you have already taken 8 of them. So, I'll be as strong as you?" "No. Demonic chakra is much more potent than human chakra, and my chakra is being filtered into you so that your body can handle it. Although, I doubt that anyone else will have the same amount of chakra that you have. You could easily be compared to the four-tailed beast." Naruto grinned. "That's pretty much it about that, but I do have a warning for you, kid." "What is it?" Naruto asked, feeling slightly uneasy at Kyuubi's tone of voice. "Even though my chakra is being filtered, the remnants that aren't absorbed have to go somewhere. The 8 tails worth that was left was dissipated while the jutsu was in effect, but you have 1 tail left, and so that unused chakra will be absorbed into your hormones, so to speak." "Am I going to be a pervert?" Naruto asked. Kyubi chuckled. Whenever this kid hears hormones, he always thinks of mating. No, hormones affect more than that. This chakra will affect your mood. You'll be more prone to losing your temper while you absorb my chakra. Don't worry, I doubt you'll physically hurt anyone, but knowing you, you might verbally tear someone down, especially in this time. It had finally dawned on Naruto that they had gone back in time. How old am I? He asked, fearing the worst. You meet the Cyclops today. Nanny. Here we go. Although Kyubi had then noticed that Naruto was in a corner with anime-style tears running down his face. What is it? Sniff, sniff. Sakura's a fangirl again. Kyubi's sweat dropped. Kit, get up. Naruto slowly got up, the tears having disappeared, yet disappointment was clearly written on his face. You got her last time. I bet it'll happen again. I guess. Even if you don't, there was that blonde and the Hyuga. They seem to be interested. Naruto smiled. True, but we'll see what happens. Indeed. Anyways, Kit. Naruto snapped to attention. You're going to need to find some new clothes and make up a good excuse. Oh, why? Instead of receiving an answer, Kyubi forced Naruto out of his mindscape. Damn fox! Naruto yelled as he sat up yet again. He looked around his room and saw that it was indeed the same bedroom he had slept in while he was at the academy and when he was a genin. Wow, this sure brings back memories. I better get used to that feeling. Stretching his sore limbs, Naruto slowly climbed out of the small mattress he once called a bed. He slowly made his way to the small bathroom, only to hit his head on the frame of the door. Ow! I never hit my head on that. Rubbing the lump on his head, he ducked under the frame and entered the grimy bathroom. He pulled his toothbrush up to his mouth after smearing some mint toothpaste on it and looked in the mirror. It took him a second for his mind to process the new reflection staring at him. Wow, he whispered. He didn't look like his former self. Instead, he looked like a mirror image of his father. The whisker marks that he used to bear had disappeared, and his eyes were just as striking as Minato's. He was obviously taller than he used to be. He was about 5 feet 10 inches tall. His hair was the same as his father's was. His face contained no trace of fat and was lean. His body was covered in lean muscle that didn't make him out to be scrawny, but it wasn't overbearing. Naruto grinned at his transformed state. Not bad, Kyubi. Naruto quickly finished up in the bathroom while he contemplated possible excuses for his new look and had come up with a passable excuse. Although, people would definitely have their doubts. Naruto walked back into his bedroom and through his closet, open to be greeted by several orange jumpsuits. Back to this? I think it's time to do something about this. He grabbed the wallet he would always have and rummaged through it. Not bad, Gamachan. You have enough for what I need. Then, Naruto remembered how hated he was in this time. Damn, looks like I'll have to use a hinge. He quickly molded his chakra without any hand seals to see how well he could perform the hinge without them. Not bad, Naruto said to his new reflection. In front of him was a boy he had befriended while training with Jiraiya. Better get to it. Naruto quickly darted out of his apartment and ran with his newly acquired speed to the nearest tailor he could find. It was still early in the day, and not many people were out, so Naruto didn't run into many people. When he arrived at the tailor, the owner was just unlocking the door when he noticed the hinged Naruto. Oh, hello there. You must be new in. However, the man noticed that the boy in front of him was definitely under a hinge. Drop it. Naruto looked surprised. Is it that bad? He mentally asked himself until he noticed the man's eyes. Shit, a Hyuga! He mentally shouted. Naruto looked downcast as he released the jutsu and was surprised to see the Hyuga grinning. W? He asked the grinning man. I'm guessing that you're Konoha's #1 prankster? Asked the Hyuga. Jis. Naruto. I see that you aren't using a henge to change your appearance, and I have not met you before, but I know that this isn't how you look. Care to explain? Damn, 20 minutes in, and I already have to explain. Well, I assume you know that I'm a Jinchuriki, am I correct? The Hyuga nodded and held the door to his store open, motioning for Naruto to enter, which Naruto decided to do. Right, well, about 5 years ago, the fox attempted to break the seal when I was in a weakened state. Weakened my ass. He was beaten, I bet, the Hyuga thought. Poor kid. He doesn't even know of his lineage. Well, he nearly broke out. The Hyuga paled when he heard this, but remained quiet. The seal had to speed up the process of absorbing the fox's chakra and adding it to my own. Was that what the seal was designed for? The Hyuga thought. When that happened, it started to show me some of the moments in time that the fox had seen, as well as shorten its own lifespan. When I saw a few of its memories, I also noticed how much I looked like the Yondaime, especially without my whisker marks, which had faded the day the seal had sped up. Has he figured it out? Naruto grinned. The Hyuga's face was showing several different emotions. One of those memories was from October 10th. That day was the last day it would walk free. In that memory, I learned something interesting. I'm guessing that you already can guess what that was. The Hyuga nodded, but said nothing, just in case the blonde Jinchuriki was bluffing. Just before the fourth sealed the fox team, he said a few things that, thanks to the fox's enhanced senses, he was able to hear. Let's just say that I would be in danger if I wasn't strong enough to protect myself from the enemies of my father who earned the nickname, the Yellow Flash of Konoha. Can you prove it? The Hyuga said quickly. The Sandaime might not want to release this information just yet. Yes, I can, and I intend to. The Namikaze's estate disappeared on the day that my father died. I'm guessing that there was a powerful Fuin jutsu on the house that would activate a barrier around the estate when the last Namikaze died and would reappear the day an heir was found. I'm guessing that if I sign the title of the estate in blood and I am his heir, then the estate will reappear. So you hid what you truly looked like so that your father's enemies wouldn't come looking for you. Naruto grinned. Pretty much, but it was also good training trying to keep a henge going for 5 years. You must have released the jutsu sometimes, right? When I went to bed. The Hyuga nodded. So why are you here? He asked. I've decided to stop disguising myself now that I'm a genin, and now I need clothes that fit me. Anything special in mind? My father's outfit, with a few modifications. The Hyuga smiled. Truly your father's son. Indeed. Naruto then gave the specifics on the outfit, and half an hour later, he was walking out of the store in an outfit mirroring his father's. He wore black shinobi-style pants and a black t-shirt with a mesh tank top underneath. His sandals were also black, and wrappings covered his ankles. His coat was white with red flames on the bottom of the coat. Naruto's shuriken holster was on his right thigh, and he had a pack where he usually kept it. The coat had many pockets for scrolls on the inside. In Naruto's hands were bags with the same outfits and a few training outfits that he had picked out. Naruto noticed that more people were out than there were earlier and decided that he should walk through town under a henge of his former self. He quickly dropped his new stuff off at home and decided to talk to the Sandaime Hokage about his new look so that he would be able to walk around without a henge. Plus, he was sick of the apartment he was currently living in. Je sens alive was the thought that kept passing through Naruto's mind. This time would definitely be different. He arrived at the Hokage Tower and walked up to the receptionist for the Hokage. Hey there, Naruto, she said as soon as she saw him. Is G-san busy? He asked. The receptionist shook her head. Nope, just doing his usual load of paperwork. Naruto shuddered at this. He remembered when Tsunade had said that she would probably be naming him as Rokudaime in about a year, but he had to get a feel for what had to be done. He was quickly given the task of doing all of the paperwork, which Tsunade was glad to give. Although, Naruto had quickly found a loophole to the bane of all Kages. Wonder if G-san ever figured it out? Thanks, he said to the receptionist as he walked past the 2 Yin Bu guard stationed at the door leading into the Hokage's room. Naruto pushed the door open and was happy to see that the Sandaime was quietly muttering under his breath while going over a trade offer with the Land of Rice. When he heard the door open, Sarutobi was glad to see that Naruto had decided to visit him. He hadn't seen him for about a week, since he had met Konohamaru. "Naruto, how are you doing?" Naruto closed the door behind him and quickly preformed a few seals that the aged Hokage recognized. A privacy jutsu? How did Naruto learn that? Naruto grinned before he let the hinge release. The Sandaime Hokage was a man who wasn't surprised by many things. Sure, he had fallen victim to the Oiroke no jutsu, but what male wouldn't? Orochimaru had defected from the village, but Sarutobi could sense it coming contrary to what he had wanted to believe. This, however, shocked him to the core. "Eminato," he whispered. Naruto grinned and shook his head. "Nope, just his son." This shocked the Hokage out of his shock-induced state. "You know," Naruto nodded. "It's like this." Naruto then proceeded to tell the third Hokage the same story that he had told the Hyuga tailor. "Wow," the Hokage exclaimed while he leaned back in his chair. "You fooled everyone for 5 years with a basic hinge. Even Hyugas." Naruto grinned. "Not really, but if only," he thought. "Pretty much," the blonde replied. "So, I'm guessing that you'll want to be moving into the Namikaze estate? After I sign the deed to the estate." "You're smarter than I thought, Naruto. No offense." "None taken. So, when will you have that ready for me?" Sarutobi leaned forward and thought for a moment. "Come back after you meet your Genin squad." "Care to tell me who my sensei will be?" "Sorry, you'll find out later, though. Anyways, Naruto, you should get to the academy so that you stay as a Genin. If you're not there when they announce the teams, you'll be dropped from the roster and be put back into the academy." Naruto smiled. "I don't really feel like it. How about this? If I can perform one A-rank jutsu, you'll let me have a day off and I'll go to the academy around lunchtime." The Hokage smiled. "Fine with me, but it can't be Kage Bunshin." Naruto smiled as well. "I'm not a one-trick pony G-san." Naruto then held out his right hand and molded some chakra in his hand while spinning it. Then he condensed it and formed a small blue ball of chakra in his hand. "Look familiar?" he asked the Sandaime who had his jaw on his desk. "The Rasengan?" he asked himself. "Yup, it took me about a week to master it." A week. Naruto nodded. "I read about it in a jutsu scroll I found at the library. Someone had checked it out and forgotten it. Yeah, it had some good descriptions but few instructions, so I just improvised." "Improvised?" the Sandaime asked. Naruto nodded as he let the condensed ball of chakra fade out of existence. "About a year ago, I found out about it and saw that it required loads of chakra control. Luckily, I found a way around that with the Kage Bunshin, which I had learned not long before that by accident." "Accident." Naruto nodded as he sat down in the seat across from the aged Hokage. "I had seen someone perform that technique when I was 10 and had tried to copy it. Took me about a year and found that I wasn't throwing enough chakra into it. The same week that we were taught the Bunshin no Jutsu at the academy, I read up on the differences between the two and found that the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu needs a lot of chakra, while the Bunshin no Jutsu needs very little." The Sandaime Hokage nodded. He truly understands it. He's smarter than he lets on. "So, I just had the clone help me manipulate the chakra in my hand. After all, 3 hands are better than 1. I didn't know that there were any books or scrolls in existence that taught the steps to the Rasengan." "Damn," Naruto screamed mentally. "What do I say?" He then quickly brought out another excuse. "There aren't, but the QB had been fairly intelligent, and even though he is a team, he kind of helped me figure out how to do it." The Sandaime went white as a sheet. "What?" Naruto smiled. "Don't worry. I'm stronger than he is, so he can't actually influence me into doing anything, even if he is an ass." This led to another question. "How long have you known? I thought that you had no knowledge of your condition prior to the Mizuki incident." Naruto sighed. He hated to lie, but he couldn't just blur out the truth that he was from the future. After one of the many beatings during my childhood, I was dragged into the shithole that is my mind. There, I met the QB who explained how he had wound up in me. I wasn't actually that angry with the fourth for what he did to me, especially when I learned that he was my father. What else do you know? Naruto sighed. Well, I can speculate over a lot of things, like where the other half of Kyuubi's chakra is, but it's all speculation and I don't really care about it. Saratobi nodded. He knew of the sealing, but he didn't know where the other half of the chakra was sealed. Well, what are you going to be doing until lunch? The Hokage asked. Naruto grinned. Well, two things. First thing, I'm going to help you figure out a way to keep the council calm while you tell them of my heritage. The Hokage flinched at this statement. He had completely forgotten about the council and their hatred towards Naruto. Second, I'm going to tell you that I know of a way to complete all of your paperwork without actually having to do it. The Hokage stared at Naruto before chuckling. Don't tell me that the QB has knowledge of how your father managed to pull that off. Naruto shook his head. No, I thought of it myself, but I bet that my father used the same method. Saratobi's eyebrows were raised. Did he actually figure out a way? Your father said that it was so simple that a Kage wouldn't even think of it. Naruto grinned. Then that means that I figured out what he was doing. It's still pretty complicated to certain groups of people, but for others, it's pretty simple. What is it? The Hokage asked, getting slightly impatient. I'll tell you on one condition, Naruto said. Condition? Naruto nodded. If you find this information to be correct, which it is, then you'll give me access to all of the jutsu scrolls in the Hokage's library. The Sandaime Hokage looked at Naruto for a moment, considering his offer. Only if it's accurate. Also, you can never tell anyone this secret, including your successor. Saratobi nodded. I agree. Naruto smiled his widest smile ever. I'm gonna love his reaction. Gahibunsin no jutsu. Naruto let the statement hang in the air while the aged Hokage thought about it for a moment. Naruto was not disappointed by Saratobi's reaction. The most powerful shinobi in the village, the man known as the professor for knowing all of the jutsu in the village excluding clan jutsu, and the Hiratian had begun to beat his head on his own desk while muttering one word repeatedly. Stupid, 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 stupid. Naruto had started laughing, holding his gut and doubled over laughing. The Hokage had never felt so humiliated. Damn you, Minato. Even after death, you get revenge on me. The Hokage screamed his head. Oh man, I'll never forget that reaction, Naruto said as he tried to catch his breath. So Naruto, the Hokage said as he halted the self-inflicted beating. If you already had all of this knowledge, why did you fail the Genin exams 3 times? Naruto had forgotten about his past failures and used his new lying ability to satisfy the Sandaime. Kakashi Hitaki. I wanted him as my sensei, and the only way to do that was to be on the same team as Sasuke Uchiha, seeing as how Kakashi would definitely be training the last Uchiha to use the Sharingan. Then there's also how the class is divided into Genin teams. Rookie of the Year with the dead last, for example. Sandaime nodded with a smile on his face. Naruto is practically a genius. Well then, today has been enlightening. Naruto grinned as the aging Hokage stood up to escort him out of the office. I'll summon the council so that we may tell them about your heritage, only after you have met Kakashi. Naruto nodded. Thank God he doesn't remember me asking about who my sensei was. Chapter 2. Introductions. Naruto was standing on top of the Hokage monument, wondering what he should do for the next 5 hours. It was 7 in the morning, and he promised the Sandaime that he would be at the academy at noon so that he could meet his team. Naruto sighed as he remembered how much he had hated his team at first. The only thing he really liked was Sakura, and even then he had moments where he would doubt his love for her. Looking out at the village, he thought about all those he was going to try and save. I may have my work cut out for me. Then his thoughts took another turn. Mother, I know you're out there, but why did you leave? He remembered when he had finally found out who his mother was. Flashback. Naruto stared at the multiple rings in the eyes of pain. Now, then, Jinchuriki of Kyuubi, the time has finally come. Fuck off, Naruto whispered. You should never have challenged a god such as myself. Your sensei Jiraiya suffered the consequences. You should have learned from his mistakes. Naruto let his rage consume him at the mention of the old pervert's name. Never say that name again, you son of a bitch. Naruto was quickly surrounded by the Kyuubi's chakra, and tail after tail started to form. When the tails reached 4 and the transformation was completed, Pain lashed out. Using the small puddles surrounding them, he preformed his next technique. The water from many puddles shot into the clouds above them. The clouds quickly began to contort into different shapes until it formed a large duplicate of Pain himself. The duplicate looked down on the mini Kyuubi and inhaled. Hayutan, Makai his aim, ice style, hell hail, announced Pain. The duplicate formed into a giant meteor which shot towards the transformed Naruto. Naruto was about to take action when the meteor suddenly exploded. Pain whirled around only to have a long katana thrown through his face. The four-tailed Naruto turned to look at the newcomer only to quickly fall to the ground and feeling the Kyuubi's chakra recede in fear. Just before he fell into an unconscious state, he saw a red-haired Kunoichi smile warmly at him. Good luck, son. When he came to, he was back in Konoha and in a hospital bed. When he told Tsunade what had happened and what he had heard the woman say to him, the beautiful Hokage had no choice but to tell him about his parents. Flashback ends. Naruto smiled. He at least had a mother who was looking out for him. The Kyuubi had never told Naruto why he was afraid of Kushina and refused to talk about what had happened. Naruto looked at his arm and flexed it. Wonder how strong I am. He started to think of different ways to test his strength out when it hit him. The two best taijutsu users in the village would be a great way to test his strength. This'll be fun. Naruto jumped from the Hokage monument and plummeted towards the ground below. Naruto focused chakra into his feet and quickly clung to the stone face of his father. Not bad control, Naruto said to himself. He quickly started to run down the monument and then toward the training grounds. Sakura was off to a bad start that morning. It had been 2 weeks since she had seen her precious Sasuke-kun. The academy had given them the time off as congratulations for passing their exams. Her red dress flapped in the gentle breeze flowing through the village. She was thinking of what she would be doing now that she was officially a ninja. I wish Mom told me more, she thought to herself. When she asked her, Mrs. Haruno had just shrugged and told her that she would see soon enough. Just as she passed the Yamanaka flower shop, she heard someone walk past her. Sakura glared at the person and matched their speed. Ino Yamanaka was having an interesting morning so far. Her father had accidentally woken her up with some exciting news that he was telling his wife. When Ino had gotten downstairs after getting ready for the day, she had found out that the Yamanaka had accidentally listened in on a conversation that a Hyuga was having that morning. Inoichi looked positively excited. And he knows how to fool the Hyugas. Ino didn't care about what he was raving about at the moment, for she saw a flash of pink walk past. She didn't say a word to her parents, who were in deep conversation about the council, as she ran out the door. Naruto was halfway across the village within mere seconds. Speed is fantastic. He wondered if his endurance was even greater as well. If my endurance went up as well, then I don't know what will stop me. His thoughts were quickly interrupted when he had to jump back to avoid colliding with two people he didn't want to see until lunch. The two kunoichi, however, ended up running into Naruto and were knocked down. Sorry, they both said in unison. When they looked up, there wasn't anybody there. Weird, Ino said. She could have sworn they had just plowed into the yondaime. She didn't notice that Sakura had already gotten up and was running down the street. Damn. Naruto was jumping from building to building. It's too early to deal with those two, especially in this time. He finally landed in a tree at the training grounds that he had dubbed the Field of Eyebrows. He noticed that Niji and Tenten were there with the two that he was seeking out were about to train together. Naruto was about to turn back and come back later when he heard a voice call out. Come out of there or else. Naruto looked back at the group to see that Niji Hyuga was looking straight at him, Byakugan activated. Damn it, I have to deal with that fate shit of his again. Naruto sighed as he jumped out of the tree he had been hiding in. Mato Guy turned around and had to stop himself from asking one thing. Minato. Naruto saw the look on Guy's face and smiled. I know what you're thinking. You'll find out at council meeting this afternoon. Guy nodded, clearly trusting the new arrival. Tenten was looking at Naruto, sizing him up. He's cute, but how strong is he? Niji was glaring daggers at the blonde, and Lee was showing polite interest in him. Hello there, my youthful friend. I am Mato Guy, and this is my Genin squad. What can I help you with? Naruto didn't flinch at the volume of Guy's voice, at least not physically. He needs to tone it down a bit. Mato Guy, my name is Naruto, and I have just passed my Genin exam a few weeks ago. I am here for I wish to challenge one of your Genin to a spar to see if I am any good, Naruto said in a pleasant yet firm tone. Why would you choose our squad? Niji asked abruptly. Naruto glared at the Hyuga. It's not your squad I'm interested in, it's him. At this, Naruto pointed at Rock Lee. YSH, I shall help you with your predicament, and help you ignite your flames of youth. Lee yelled loudly. If I cannot do this, then I shall climb the Hokage monument with a boulder strapped to my back. Lee, if you cannot do this, then I shall run to Suna and back with my weights doubled within a day. After Guy announced this, Naruto, Niji, and Tenten knew what was coming. Gi Sensei. Lee. Gi Sensei. Lee. Naruto shut his eyes quickly to avoid the Jinjutsu. Tell me something. Can either of you figure that Jinjutsu out? Naruto asked Niji and Tenten, who had also closed their eyes. Nope, they both said. I don't care who he is, at least he has the sense to close his eyes to avoid this, thought Tenten. They counted to 30 before opening their eyes to find that guy, and Lee had just broken apart, as had the Jinjutsu. So now that all that's done, let's do this, Naruto said. Lee got into his Goken stance, as had Naruto. Everyone present was surprised at this. They hadn't known of any other Goken users besides the two spandex wearing ninja. Naruto and Lee quickly charged each other. Lee was on the offensive as he threw a punch through Naruto's guard, which was dodged. Lee followed up with a roundhouse kick, which Naruto blocked. Naruto then took the offensive as he grabbed Lee's leg and used Lee's momentum to spin him around and throw him at a tree. Lee quickly recovered and twisted through the air so that he could use the tree to spring off of. He quickly planted his feet on the tree and pushed off using the force of the throw. He tore through the air towards Naruto, who had quickly jumped into the air to avoid Lee and the force that was carried with him. Naruto landed back in his Goken stance, only to find Lee right behind him. Time to use the lotus, Naruto thought. Lee threw a left hook at Naruto, only to find him gone. Lee didn't have any time to react, as he felt himself being launched into the air by a kick to the chin. As he was soaring through the air, Lee sensed Naruto behind him. Kagebuyo, Naruto whispered. Lee's eyes widened. How can you use this technique? Naruto smirked. Simple. I'm a genius at hard work. Naruto flipped through a few hand seals, activating a jutsu that created chakra, which bound Lee to Naruto just as Lee's wrappings would. Naruto was spinning quickly with Lee in his grasp. Omote range, Naruto said as he jumped away a split second before impact. Guy was struggling from having his jaw dropping. Incredible. Lee had stood up and shook the dirt off of him. He was feeling the after effects from being on the wrong end of the lotus technique. You all right, Lee? Naruto asked worriedly. I think that might have been too much. Even though Lee was still recovering from the lotus, he noticed something wrong with Naruto. He doesn't look fatigued at all. I think you have one, my youthful friend. He huffed. You sure? Naruto asked. Maybe I did hit him hard with that. You are hardly even-winded from using the initial lotus, while I have taken much damage from it. If this were to continue, I would lose very quickly. I must say, you are a worthy rival. Indeed, he is Lee. He will make a great rival for you. Guy quickly yelled. Shit, don't tell me. YSH. Naruto, you shall be my eternal rival, and I will strive to defeat you. Lee announced. Damn, Naruto screamed mentally. Naruto spent most of the morning at the training grounds discussing the Goken style with Guy, and Lee while Niji, trained as Byakugan and Tenten, was throwing kunai at a target. Sakura was fuming. Ino Yamanaka had somehow gained the lead in their little race and had gotten the seat right next to Sasuke. Sakura had to settle for being on the seat next to Ino. Ino, however, was very happy. She got to be next to the class heartthrob, Sasuke. Sasuke, on the other hand, wasn't happy at all, especially today. He had to sit next to not one, but two annoying fangirls at the same time. Where the hell is the dope? With him here, I would at least only have to deal with one fangirl. Irika had already started to call out the teams and was reading out Team 5 when an ANBU appeared and handed him a slip of paper. He read it quickly. Irika, Naruto will be late today and will not arrive until noon. He already knows that he must wait for his sensei along with his team in the classroom. Do not drop him from the roster, for he has my permission to not be there. A little warning for you when he arrives. He has changed since you last saw him. You will understand at the council meeting that I have called for this afternoon. Saratobi. Sandame Hokage. Changed? Irika thought. How so? Naruto was sitting at Ichiraku's and had already explained what he had told the Sandame. Ayame and her father were both impressed with Naruto's deception and had praised him by giving him a free bowl of ramen. 13 bowls later. Thanks for the ramen. Naruto yelled over his shoulder as he headed toward the academy. Naruto looked at the people around him as he walked and was surprised to see their reactions. They were staring at him with awe. I must look like my father more than I thought. At least they're not staring at me with hatred. Naruto smiled as he passed a group of children playing a game of tag. No matter what, I will protect everyone this time. He continued walking through the village, remembering all of the good times he had had. I'm glad I have a second chance. This time, I'll make sure everything turns out right. At this, He jumped up onto a building and felt the cool breeze against his face. What did I do to deserve to be on a team with Naruto? Sakura thought. Here she was sitting on a bench, eating her lunch, alone, no Sasuke in sight. I mean, it's great that I'm with Sasuke, but why Naruto? And where the hell is that Baka anyways? She sighed again and stared at the tree in front of her. Then she remembered the look on Ino's face when Team 7 was announced. At least that put Ino Pig in her place. Shinaro, we rule. She started to hum to herself when she noticed a blonde boy walk past her. Her immediate reaction was to hit him over the head, for she thought it was Naruto. And she actually looked at him. Who's he? He looks like the Yondaime. Maybe he's related? The blonde boy glanced over his shoulder at the girl for a moment before turning his gaze elsewhere. He's kind of cute. He's hot. I don't know how to deal with this stuff again, thought Naruto. She was too hard to deal with when we were all Team 7. I don't know how I pulled through with all that abuse. I mean, I love her, but maybe it just wasn't meant to be. Naruto was thinking this when he looked back at the pink-haired kunoichi that he had been engaged to in his own time. Well, if it happens, it happens. He walked through the front doors of the academy and walked up to the classroom he had not set foot in for what must have been years. Well, technically 2 weeks. When Naruto opened the door, he was greeted by a snoring Irika. Maybe I shouldn't. Nah, who am I kidding? Naruto did the sign for his most infamous jutsu. Ichiwai Irika-sensei, yelled Naruto as he activated his jutsu. Irika had been having a pleasant dream that had involved the Ichiraku ramen stand and a dangerous kunoichi known as Anko Mitarashi when he was awoken by a loud voice. He opened his eyes only to be knocked unconscious by what he saw. There, in all her nude glory, was Anko Mitarashi. Well, almost nude. It seemed that there were clouds of smoke covering the most intimate areas. Naruto dispelled his sexy jutsu, Irika style, and rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Maybe that was a little too much. Once he had been awoken by Naruto, Irika was quickly told what the Sandaime and the Hyuga had been told, and to say that Irika was impressed was an understatement. I'm so proud to have had a student like you, Naruto. Although, you should tune it down with the pranks now. Naruto shrugged. We'll see Irika-sensei. It's just too much fun to quit. Naruto and Irika had then sat down and talked about some of the things that Naruto actually knew how to do. Naruto was, of course, being as discreet as possible so that he didn't seem too suspicious. He already was mentally berating himself for showing the Sandaime the Rasengan, and he didn't want another slip-up to happen just because he wanted to get some attention. Just then, the bell signifying that lunch was over rang. Naruto had decided not to sit down, but to stand at the window. Ino Yamanaka was the last one in the classroom thanks to her new team. Choji Akamichi had insisted that they stay put until he had finished what was left of his lunch. Ino was about to leave the Akamichi and the lazy Shikomaru when she remembered that her father had made her promise to stay with her team as much as possible, even if that meant missing out on sitting next to the Uchiha. He probably knew about this whole team matchup thing. When she entered the classroom, she was surprised to see the man she had run into that morning. So it wasn't just my imagination, she thought. As she took a seat on the front row, she studied the man that was staring passively out the window. He was tall, handsome, nearly everything she wanted in a man. Then she noticed something. He's not that old. He's at least my age, which means I might have chance. Now I have shot at not one hot guy, but two. Irika watched the classroom as they all studied the class as they stared at the new and improved Naruto. Naruto made me promise not to tell anyone, so I won't. All right, class, he said, immediately getting their attention. It's time for you to meet your Jonin sensei. They shall be arriving shortly. As he finished, the door slid open to reveal a man and a woman. Genma and Kurenai, Irika thought. Team 8, come with me please, Kurenai announced. Many males in the room stared at the beautiful Kunoichi now in their midst. Not again, Kurenai thought as she watched nearly every single male practically drool. Except for 3 of them, Irika, Sasuke, and Naruto. Irika and the Uchiha are to be expected, but who's the blonde? She thought to herself. He's not that old, but he holds himself like a Kage. She looked at his posture. He was facing the window, arms folded, unblinking. He looks like the 4th, she realized. Maybe he's new to the village, but that's a Konoha headband. Shino, Kiba, and Hinata had approached their new sensei to see that she was staring at the unfamiliar person in the room. The blonde had obviously sensed Kurenai's gaze upon him and mouthed something that 5 people in the room had understood. Kurenai nodded and walked out of the room with her new Genin squad following her. Genma had watched the emotions flick across Kurenai's face and was thinking the same thoughts as she was. What he was surprised at was what the blonde had said. He understood what he meant and couldn't help but be even more curious. Team 6, meet me out front. With that said, Genma used the Shushin no jutsu to disappear, leaving his new Genin squad excited about what they might learn as they left the classroom. After about an hour, there were only 2 teams left, Team 10 and Team 7. Ino and Sakura were now on both sides of the last Uchiha, who was staring at Naruto, wondering who this new person was and why there's going to be a council meeting that would clarify things. Shikamaru was occasionally glancing at the tall blonde who had barely moved since silently speaking to the female, Jonin, about the council meeting. Poor dad, he has to go to another troublesome council meeting. Choji was sitting next to his friend, happily munching on his chips, but he was also curious as to who the blonde was seeing as how Shikamaru was taking notice. Ino and Sakura were curious, and Ino had tried to work up the courage to speak to him, but found that she just couldn't. Irika had been watching the 2 teams and silently chuckled. I wouldn't be surprised if Shikamaru figured out, he thought. He finally stood up and stretched. Well, you guys, I'd better get going. Your sensei will be here soon, I hope. The fact that he hadn't specified which team's sensei left 5 of the genin extremely curious. Before he walked to the door, he rested his hand on Naruto's shoulder and whispered to him, "Be careful, Naruto." Naruto only nodded. Irika walked out of the classroom, leaving the 6 genin alone. Naruto looked like he was doing some intense thinking on the outside, but on the inside was a different story. "Oh man, I love this," he shouted mentally. "I can feel the curiosity rolling off of all of them. Wonder when one of them will try to speak to me." His question was quickly answered by the second blonde in the room. "You kinda young for a jonin. Are you really one of our sensei?" Naruto paid no attention to the young, yet beautiful blonde. Ino was feeling irritated that her question had been met with nothing but silence. "Who the hell does he think he is?" "Hey, I asked you a question," she yelled. This time, she was met with a stare from the larger blonde. Wow, his eyes are really intense, she thought. Then, she felt her face heat up. "I hate it when I blush." Naruto had a slightly similar thought to Ino's reaction. She's cute when she blushes. Naruto shifted his gaze from the Yamanaka to the door of the classroom. Well, at least he's here. The door opened to reveal the chain smoking sensei of Team 10. His gaze quickly went to the blonde Jinchuriki. Father was right. He really does look like his father now. I must say, I'm impressed that he's hidden this from all of his for this long. He's definitely the strongest genin out of this year. His gaze then fell upon the Uchiha and the 2 fangirls that were now staring at the latest arrival. I pity Kakashi now. All right, Team 10, follow me please. Shikamaru yawned at this as he stood up along with his pleasantly plump friend. Ino, however, got up very reluctantly, seeing as how she would be leaving her rival in the company of two hot guys. Maybe I'll see the new guy around the village later. As they were walking out, Asuma looked at Naruto, who quickly met his gaze. I assume that he'll be here in at least half an hour, Asuma said to the Namikaze. Naruto nodded as Asuma closed the door behind him. Damn Naruto baka. Why the hell is he so late? Sakura yelled out half an hour later. Even though he said nothing, it was quite apparent that Sasuke wondered the same thing. Who says that he isn't here? Naruto asked while watching the sky outside. Sakura was taken aback by the question from the Yondaime look-alike. We would have sensed him by now, sensei, Sakura stated. I'm not so sure about that. What do you think, team? He asked as he looked towards the Uchiha. At this, Sasuke was glaring daggers at the blonde. What the hell is going on? He growled. The only one that calls me that is Naruto, but he can't be. For a prodigy, you're kind of a disappointment. You couldn't spot a simple henge for 6 years. Then again, neither did the Hyugas or the Hokage. In fact, nobody else detected it at all. What do you mean? Sasuke asked angrily as he stood up. Naruto shook his head. Calm down, Sasuke. If we're going to be a team, we need to act like one. How can you be Naruto? You look similar, but He was cut off when he sensed the same chakra pattern that he knew to be Naruto's coming from the blonde in front of him. The Naruto you knew was just an act. Well, I do love ramen and pranks. Sasuke glared at Naruto. Why did you hide under a henge then? Because of my lineage. I didn't want anyone to recognize me for who I truly was until I could at least defend myself. Not much else to it, really. Sakura's mouth had dropped open. The annoying little blonde that had annoyed her from the start of the academy. The blonde that could never sit still. The one that could never outshine her precious Sasuke-kun had deceived the entire village with a simple henge and had stood still for well over an hour. Not even her inner self had any comments right now. She was slightly berating herself for thinking that the blonde had been hot since lunch. So, we're waiting for our sensei then? She finally asked. Naruto nodded. Hopefully, he won't be much longer. He walked toward the other side of the room and leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. Naruto sighed when he felt the glare from Sasuke. What? He snapped. He was only glaring. Why'd I snap at him? Even Sasuke seemed derailed for a moment before returning to the task at hand. How strong are you really? He asked. Naruto just shrugged. I don't really know. I haven't had a fight that often, so... Sasuke nodded. He could be strong enough to not hold me back, but I think that may not be the issue. His gaze turned to his pink-haired teammate who was staring at Naruto. At least you don't wear that target you call an outfit, Sasuke said with a smirk as returned his gaze to the blonde. Naruto smirked at this as well. It was fun acting like an idiot while it lasted. Sasuke nodded. Perhaps this won't be so bad. He seems sensible. Then again, he may prove me wrong. Suddenly, the door started to open and before Sasuke or Sakura knew what was happening, Naruto had thrown a kunai at whoever was entering. When they had finally realized what had happened, they turned towards the door to see that the kunai had been caught. Fast was the only thing that the two genin could think as they glanced at the new arrival and Naruto. The man who caught the projectile was a tall silver-haired man, wearing a regular jonin outfit with a mask hiding most of his face and his Hittite slanted down, covering his left eye. He's changed. He looks more like his father, thought one Kakashi Hatake. The visible eye was closed in an upside-down U shape, indicating that he was smiling. I must say, that kunai was thrown rather impressively. However, you didn't know if I was an ally or an enemy. Naruto grinned. I knew who you were, Kakashi Hatake, said Jonin's eyebrow raised in interest. Then why throw it? Because you were late. Well, I saw it coming, but at least you were on your guard, just in case. Naruto raised his eyebrows and asked, Really? Well, did you see this coming? He asked as he pointed at what Kakashi had caught. Kakashi looked at the kunai in his hand to find that there was a tag wrapped around the handle. SHIT was the one thought of the copy Nin as the tag went off. What happened next was not what was expected. Instead of an explosion, orange smoke quickly erupted from the tag, covering Kakashi completely. This is a jonin? Pathetic Sasuke, though, however, he was attempting to hide a smirk. Sakura was having trouble keeping her inner self in check. Shinaro, that was totally awesome. Way to go, Naruto. I agree. When the smoke cleared, there stood a completely orange Kakashi. Doesn't look that bad on you, Kakashi, Naruto said, who was chuckling. The #1 prankster in Konohagakure is back with a vengeance. Well, that was interesting, Kakashi thought. It would probably be funnier if it weren't preformed against me. Meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. With that said, he disappeared in a whirlwind of leaves. Without another word, the 3 genin went up to the roof of the building, not saying a word to each other on the way. Sasuke was silently admiring the talent that Naruto had shown. Not bad, dope. When they reached the roof, they found a Kakashi that seemed to be perfectly fine leaning on the railing. There was no orange left whatsoever. You're pretty talented, Kakashi-sensei, said a grinning Naruto. Same to you. Kakashi then indicated with his hand for them to sit down in front of him. So, now that we're all here, let's introduce ourselves, shall we? Before Sakura could ask what he meant, Naruto stood up. My name is Naruto. My hobbies include training and pranks. My dislikes are people who blame others for something they have no control over. Being a Jinchuriki, Kakashi thought. I have many likes. Ramen, friends for example. My dream is to be one of the greatest Hokages to ever have lived. Kakashi nodded. Interesting. Okay, you next, Pinky, he said, pointing at Sakura. Sakura scowled at her nickname. Oh, my name is Sakura Haruno, and I like. She looked over at Sasuke. Squeal. My dream is to squeal. Kakashi mentally sighed. Seems like another fangirl, great. What about your dislikes? He asked. Naruto, she said loudly. The blonde, however, reacted differently than expected. Like I care, he muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. Where the hell did that come from? Sakura and Sasuke looked shocked. Did he just say that? Kakashi watched their reactions for a moment before continuing the introductions. Last one. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. There's nearly nothing that I do like, as there are many things that I dislike. I don't have a dream. It's more of an ambition. I intend to revive my clan and kill a certain someone. That's to be expected. All right. And my name is Kakashi Hitaki. We shall meet tomorrow at Training Ground 7 at 8. There, we shall conduct a survival test. Sakura was about to say something when Naruto beat her to it yet again. Anything in particular that we need to bring? He asked. Kakashi nodded. Bring your ninja gear with you. All the information you need is on these sheets. As he said this, he handed the 3 of them 3 sheets of paper. One more thing, he said as he turned away from them. I suggest that you don't eat any breakfast unless you enjoy throwing up. With that said, he disappeared in another whirlwind of leaves. Naruto got up and looked at his teammates. I don't know about you two, but I would eat breakfast. He didn't order us to skip it. And besides, we're going to need all our strength, seeing as how he said it was a survival test. Sasuke nodded, understanding what he meant. Sakura, however, was having doubts about what Naruto had just said. Naruto Baka, what would you know? At this, Naruto felt his anger flare. Shut the hell up, Sakura. I happen to know what kind of test he's going to be giving us, and I for one want to be prepared, so if you won't mind, keep your stupid comments to yourself. Once he was done, he quickly used Shushin, leaving his teammates stunned. What happened to him? Sakura thought. It's about time he stopped taking that crap from her, thought Sasuke. Maybe he isn't such a baka after all. Naruto reappeared a few blocks away, feeling angry and guilty, yet satisfied. Damn, now I get it. It's those damn hormones, thanks to the transfer. Oh well, it can't be helped. It's not like what I said wasn't what I've been thinking on my own. Naruto looked up at the Hokage monument in the distance. Probably should go see if G-san is ready yet. As he set off towards the Hokage tower, another figure sat watching him. He's definitely better than what the files said, thought a Sharingan-wielding Jonin. It's kinda eerie how much he looks like Minato-sensei. Well, I better head to the council meeting to see what's so important to call all of us. He quickly set off in the same direction of Naruto. Chapter 3. Meetings and the Bells. Sarutobi watched from his seat as most of the Jonin of Konoha arrived and took their own seats in the large council chamber. The council, consisting of the clan heads, the Hokage's assistants, Koharu and Hamura, important civilians, and the Hokage himself were already there and had been for several minutes. Now, they were only waiting on 4 more people, Guy, Kakashi, Kurenai, and the guest of honor. Kakashi had better not be late this time. Sarutobi had threatened the lazy, chronically late Jonin to show up on time, or his collection of Aika books would disappear and he would be banned from the bookstores that sold them. Kakashi had quickly given his word to arrive on time. The aging Hokage grinned when he remembered the look of horror on Kakashi's face when the Hokage had brought the books into the equation. I can see why Naruto loves to prank. At this moment, 3 of the 4 people arrived at the same time. The Sandaime was disappointed that the one that was missing was the blonde-haired prankster. Although I'm surprised that Kakashi made it on time. Suddenly, he felt the presence of the blonde Jinchuriki and turned to see him standing at the door, completely unnoticed. I see he's smart to not make his presence known, thought Sarutobi as he nodded slightly, indicating that he understood what was expected of him. Everyone's attention was currently on the Hokage as they all wondered the same thing. Why did the Hokage call for an emergency council meeting? The Hokage stood up and surveyed the crowd in front of him. Many of them were anxious, some confused, and few who seemed irritated. Sarutobi's gaze lingered on the 3 individuals who were those few. As expected of Hayashi and my assistants, he thought. He cleared his throat and fiddled with the pipe in his hand, which wasn't lit, indicating that he was to not be interrupted. My fellow villagers, I have called this meeting for something of great importance has surfaced. He kept his face in a serious manner as he watched everyone's emotions. Nothing of great importance had happened since the failed kidnapping attempt on one Hinata Hyuga. It has been 13 years since the Yondaime died, sealing the legendary Kyuubi into one infant to save us all. He stopped again as he watched many civilians and about half of the Jonin grit their teeth at the mention of the demon child. Since then, the Namikaze estate has remained under the strongest genjutsu that the Yondaime created that none have been able to pierce. The only way for the estate to reappear and be unlocked is if someone with Namikaze blood were to sign the deed in blood. Many were muttering to each other, not seeing where this was going. Hayashi Hyuga, however, had spotted a certain blonde hiding in the back of the crowd. Hayashi at first thought it was the long-dead man they were speaking of, but upon closer inspection courtesy of his Byakugan, he noticed many different things, mainly the occasional burst of red chakra within his system quickly running through his system and disappearing. Hayashi was, of course, not stupid, nor was he ignorant. He had quickly figured out why they were here and decided to speak. You have found the son of Minato Namikaze. Sarutobi looked over at the Hyuga and was surprised to see that he was suppressing a smirk. Is it true? Anko asked suddenly as she stood up from her seat. Indeed, it is Anko. Naruto, come forth. Naruto quickly made his way to the front, ignoring the glares of hatred directed his way. Suddenly, as he was passing a certain pink-haired Chunin, he heard a cry of hatred. That demon child is no son of the legendary Yondaime. That's the one that murdered him and nearly killed the whole village. Naruto felt his killer intent spike dangerously as he reached for his kunai pouch to only have Kakashi place a hand on his left shoulder. "Don't, Naruto," he whispered. Naruto felt another hand on his opposite shoulder and sensed Iruka. "Ignore her." Naruto nodded as he repressed his killer intent. When Naruto had reached the front, with Iruka and Kakashi still by his side, he watched the council. Many people looked upon him with anger. Some were watching the two shinobi that were obviously on Naruto's side. A few of them looked indifferent, some curious, and a handful that were beaming with happiness. Obviously, there's only one way to actually confirm this to be factual. So I have had Ibiki get me the scroll that contains the deed to the Namake's estate. Ibiki, if you will. The Sandaime Hokage motioned for the head of torture to bring him the scroll. Ibiki handed the scroll to the Hokage and turned to look at Naruto. He gave him a quick look over and grinned. "You look like him." With that said, the large Jonin returned to his seat in the middle of the chamber, right next to Anko Mitarashi, who leaned over and whispered into Ibiki's ear. Naruto turned his attention from the two sadists to the yellow scroll that was being presented before the crowd, who had become silent once more. This scroll is sealed with a blood seal that only an heir of Minato would be able to open, and I am confident that young Naruto here shall do just that. Without another word, he presented Naruto with the scroll, and Naruto stared at it for a full minute before slowly taking it from the aged Kage. Naruto sighed as he quickly bit his thumb and smeared the blood over the seal. Nothing happened for a few seconds, and the Hokage was a little worried when a flash erupted from the seal. The flash quickly died down, and when Naruto opened his eyes, he was the only one unsurprised to see that Minato Namikaze was standing in the room. Sasuke Uchiha was currently walking towards the Uchiha compound, thinking about how strong Naruto had become. "I still can't believe that the dobe was failing on purpose in the academy. Why would anyone do that? I wonder if we were to fight, who would win?" Sasuke grit his teeth when he thought about it, and remembered the dangerous glint in Naruto's eye when he had spoken about hiding who he truly was. That glint had told the Uchiha that Naruto was a person you would not want to mess around with. I wonder, maybe Naruto could help me gain more power. I don't want to admit it, but when he approached the academy at lunch, there was something about him that made me think of Itachi and his power. Maybe Naruto could help me against Itachi. Yet, Itachi left me alive so that I could kill him myself. That must be the only reason. He felt some sort of guilt that day. Some part of him couldn't let him get away with it. But why me? Yes, being the last Uchiha was definitely not the best thing in the world. For some reason, Sasuke had finally considered using someone to help him kill his brother. Never before had he thought of something such as this. And yet, when he looked into Naruto's eyes, he knew it would be for the best if someone were to help. I shall think it over later. Finally, Sasuke was at the end of the road where the entrance to the grounds of the Uchiha compound were when there was a bright yellow light that appeared just across the road. Sasuke had to close his eyes to keep himself from going blind. The light seemed to engulf him with a strange energy. It seemed purifying. When it finally receded, Sasuke opened his eyes slowly to adjust to the light from the sun. What he saw was slightly shocking. All his life, when he exited the Uchiha grounds, there was nothing but a stone wall that he had never given a thought. Now, however, the light had seemed to create a large iron gate that seemed calming, yet foreboding at the same time. Sasuke felt his mouth hanging open in surprise as he slowly approached the gate. The gate seemed to be luring him, as if it would grant whoever could open it immense powers. Sasuke reached out with his hand, only to find that he could get within 6 inches of the bars of iron. He pushed again with more force, yet there seemed to be some sort of force pushing back. Sasuke stopped and slowly retracted his arm and stared at the gate for a minute before focusing past it. All that he could see was a large field of flowers. Flowers? Why is there a field of flowers past this? Hayashi Hyuga had activated his Kekiai, Genkai, to assure himself that it was not just an imposter. Yet there he was, Minato Namikaze, the one that had given his life 13 years earlier to seal the Kyuubi into his own son. Impossible. And yet, here he is. Everyone present were currently on their knees. The Yondaime looked around the room, inspecting everyone individually until his eyes came to rest upon the near mirror image next to him. He smiled softly at him. "Naruto, you've grown." Naruto nodded, not saying a thing. Minato's gaze then shifted to the man Naruto's left. "You've grown as well, Kakashi." The silver-haired man said nothing, too speechless to even react. "Ow!" Sarutobi finally asked. "How are you alive?" Minato looked sadly upon his predecessor. "I'm not alive. I'm merely a clone so that I may explain that Naruto is my son." I knew that no one would believe him, even if he proved that he was Namikaze with a blood seal. So I created a special seal in this scroll to seal a Kage Bunshin to do its job. Seeing the bewildered look on everyone's face, he grinned that foxy grin of his. It was pretty complicated, and it took me several tries to get right. I originally designed it for the uses of delivering messages that could not be used against us if it fell into the wrong hands. Sarutobi nodded, remembering the fourth once explaining what he was going to try to do when he first became Hokage. "So, I see that you figure out who you really are, Naruto?" "Yes, Father," Naruto said as he grinned. "I really am sorry about what I did to you, but you were the only choice." "It's all right, Dad. I understand perfectly." Minato nodded. "So, did the village honor my wishes?" he asked the current Hokage. "Very few did." "Tell me, which ones?" "Your student, Anko, Ibiki, myself, of course, Irika, the Ichirakus, the Hyugas haven't shown any aggression against him. Those that have were executed. The Yamanakas, Kurenai, Gunma, a few civilians, and your sensei haven't when he was here." Minato nodded. "I see. Well, I'm very disappointed, but unsurprised." He then turned back to the crowd. "To think that this village, the one I swore to protect no matter what, turned against my own son because he saved you all from the demon. I truly am ashamed. I take it that most of you are convinced that Naruto is my son." Many people nodded. "Dad, there is one thing I want to say before you leave." Minato nodded. "Go ahead." The fox broke the seal. Minato jumped back, white as a sheet. How? It forced too much chakra through the seal. Come see." Minato looked at his son, wondering what was about to happen. He slowly approached his son and looked into his eyes to feel the effects of Jinjutsu. Minato looked around to find himself in the Hokage's office. He was about to dispel the Jinjutsu when he heard his son's voice. "Don't. Please, there is something that I need to show you." At this, the scene changed to the conversation that Naruto had with the Kyuubi before he had activated the Jikenhin. Then, the scene started to change. Minato looked at his son once the Jinjutsu had been lifted. "I truly am proud of you, son." Naruto nodded as he watched his father turn and face the Sandaime. Minato placed his hand on the elder Hokage's shoulder and smiled. "Now that my seal is taking effect quickly, the village should be a bit more understanding." Sarutobi nodded, slightly in a daze. "This still seems impossible." "It was good seeing you again, Minato, even if it was just a clone." Minato smiled sadly before once more turning to Naruto. "I take it you'll know how to open the gate." Naruto nodded to his father. "Good. Remember, son, I do love you, and so does your mother." With that said, he looked at everyone in the room once more, and then Kakashi. "Take care of him, Kakashi." Kakashi could only nod. "Well, goodbye, everybody." With that said, Minato slowly faded out of existence. The council chamber was silent now that they had seen the fourth yet again. Does anybody still disagree that Naruto is not a Namikaze? Nobody said anything. Saratobi smiled. Then, the Namikaze estate should be back, and it now belongs to you. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, said Blonde, only nodded as he gripped the scroll in his hand. If only it was really him, he thought to himself. Hayashi was the first to truly recover. Namikaze-san. Naruto looked at the Hyuga head and smiled warmly. Just call me Naruto. Hayashi nodded. Like father, like son, I see. If you would like, I can escort you to your new estate now that you live quite close to my own estate. Naruto nodded. Yeah, sure. I just have to stop by my apartment to grab a few things. Sakura was walking along the road toward her house. She had lost track of Sasuke a few hours ago and had finally quit searching. She walked through her front door to find her mother on the couch, silently staring at a picture of one of her closest friends. Sakura saw the picture and sighed. Apparently, Sakura's mother had a slight crush on Minato Namikaze back in the day when she was an academy student. Mom, I saw him today, her mother said. What? Minato. We all saw him one last time at the council meeting. Sakura stared at her mother. She had finally gone to the deep end. It couldn't have been. He's been dead for 13 years. I know that, Sakura, but I actually saw him one last time, and the way he looked at me, she struggled to hold back tears. It's because of the way I treated his only son. Mom, the Yondaime never had a son. No, Sakura, he did, the same day that he died. There aren't any boys with the name Namikaze. That was to protect the boy from his father's enemies. Sakura suddenly recalled something Naruto had said earlier that day. Because of my lineage, I didn't want anyone to recognize me for who I truly was until I could at least defend myself. What was the boy's name? She asked, although she already knew the answer. Naruto. Sakura sat down. I can't believe it. Naruto is the son of the fourth Hokage. Naruto was brought before the council for he had discovered his lineage. We didn't believe him at first until he opened a scroll that the Yondaime had left behind. When Naruto activated the blood seal, it summoned a clone of Minato to explain that he was a Namikaze. So, how did you treat Naruto to have the Yondaime look at you in a way that would upset you? Sakura's mother looked ashamed when she recalled what a terrible childhood Naruto had had. He has suffered at the hands of the villagers, not just mentally, but physically. When he was younger, he would be beaten repeatedly by mobs. A few times I saw them beating the boy and did nothing to help, and once I had helped with the beating. Sakura looked at her mother in horror. Why, she asked. Something that was completely out of his own control. He sacrificed so much for the village, and all we did to repay him was to beat and shun him. Who else helped? She asked her mother sadly. She was remembering how she had treated her classmate in the academy and how he had finally snapped at her today. I'm a horrible person. There were too many people involved to actually know. There were a few, such as the Yamanakas, the Hokage, and your sensei, that showed no hostility towards the boy. Sakura sat in silence beside her mother, who was silently crying. Naruto was surprised that Hayashi had no idea about the shithole apartment that he had lived in for most of his life. When Hayashi was led towards the apartment, he was getting angrier and angrier at the state of the neighborhood. Naruto, how long have you lived here? He asked the young blonde. Naruto shrugged. Since the orphanage threw me out. Which was when exactly? I think I was 6. Hayashi struggled to keep his anger in check. He slowly began breathing exercises to control himself. Hyugas were not supposed to be emotional. It's okay, Hayashi. After the assassination attempt stopped, it was okay. Hayashi looked at Naruto for a moment before smiling. Like his father, always looking optimistically. Naruto finally arrived at his apartment and ran in quickly, not wanting to stay much longer than necessary. He quickly found the shopping bags with his new clothes and grabbed them. He ran out of the building. So, let's get going now, Hayashi-san. The Hyuga head nodded. Yes, I'm most interested to see the gates yet again. Naruto smirked. So what exactly do you see when you see the gates? Hayashi looked at Naruto in surprise for a moment when Naruto answered his question. Ji-san told me about the Jinjutsu. Hayashi nodded. I see well. Hayashi blushed at this. I don't want to say. Naruto grinned. It's not perverted, is it, Hayashi-san? Hayashi looked at Naruto for a moment. You know that it will only display places, not things. Naruto shrugged. So, I would bet that if Jiraiya of the Sannin looked, he would see a brothel. Hayashi chuckled. He does have a one-track mind. So I've heard. The two shinobi continued out of the poorer part of the village and continued silently through the market district and other residential parts. Naruto noticed that they were passing the Yamanaka flower shop and that it was in fact still open. Inside, he could see a worn-out Ino sitting at the register. Naruto stared as he passed the large glass windows, looking at the beautiful Yamanaka as the light from the setting sun hit her perfectly. Just as beautiful as in the future. Ino seemed to have noticed him staring and looked up to lock eyes with him for a moment. Ino was very surprised when she looked up to see the boy that she had tried to talk to looking at her as he passed. The next thing she noticed was that he was holding a few bags that were full of clothes. Ino knew this since she had plenty of experience shopping for clothes and knew what the bags looked like. This intrigued her, seeing as how there were quite a few bags, all of them packed to the gills. A man that can shop, she mentally shouted in joy. Then, she noticed who he was walking with. Hayashi Hyuga was rarely ever seen with anyone that wouldn't be considered important. Yet, here he was with someone she had never seen before today. She continued to stare until they had passed the shop and were out of her sight. Wow! Hayashi was suppressing a grin. He had seen Naruto and the other blonde staring at each other with great interest. So, Naruto, are you interested in any kunoichi in this part of town? He asked politely. The young Namikaze, however, could detect a hint of amusement in Hayashi's voice. Careful, my friend. We are neighbors now, and I have been known to pull pranks and not get caught by ENBU. Hayashi nodded, still suppressing a smirk. That answers my questions. Naruto sighed. He wasn't this forward or teasing when we met in my time. They continued walking in silence, which was fine with the two of them, seeing as how it was a comfortable silence. Just as they were approaching the Namikaze estate, Hayashi broke the silence. So how strong are you really, Naruto? Naruto shrugged. I'm going to tell you what I told Sasuke Uchiha. I haven't been pushed to my limit because the situation has never called for it. But if I were to gauge my own strength, at least as strong as a rookie Jonin. Hayashi wasn't very surprised, considering who his father was. Dead last in the academy, #1 as a genin. Hayashi remembered how different his blonde-haired friend's power seemed to be when they had fought in the Chunin exams for the first time. Your father was the same, hiding your true potential until you were out of the academy. Naruto smirked. Yeah, but he never hid his true self from anybody, including the Hyugas. Hayashi frowned at this. I'm not trying to be offensive, it's just that I actually did get away with it. But if you had activated your bloodline on me, you would have seen me for who I truly was. Hayashi nodded. Nice save. It was the truth. Hayashi grunted. They had finally reached the gate, and Naruto looked at what was beyond it. Naruto grinned. He always grinned whenever he was here. What is it that you see? Hayashi asked. Depends on my mood. Hayashi nodded. I would invite you in, but I want to look around first before I have anyone come over. Understand, however, I will expect an invitation from you as soon as possible. Naruto grinned. I understand why as well. I'm not going to care if you give me some sort of housewarming gift or not. I'll back you up on anything if I approve of it. I know of the council workings and that you are very influential. However, so am I now that I have my father's name. Hayashi nodded. He had been expecting the blonde to know the workings of the council since he had discovered who the blonde was. I shall take my leave then. Naruto nodded, not seeing any reason to say anything. As Hayashi left, Naruto lifted his arm to push against the iron gates so that he could finally get home. He felt the sensation that the barrier gave whenever he touched it. He pushed through it, feeling a tingling sensation in his arm, and reached the coal bars, pushing them open. The gates slowly and silently opened themselves after the slight and gentle touch of Naruto's hand. Naruto walked past them and heard them close behind them. Naruto looked around, seeing the large field of grass around him. To his right was a small forest. In it, he could sense a variety of different creatures. He smiled as he saw a small fox emerge from a bush and look at him curiously. Naruto stared back, unblinking. He knew that this fox would not harm him. The fox, however, was unsure of the new arrival. Finally, the fox yawned and turned away, trotting into the forest. Naruto chuckled. He slightly wondered if the Kyuubi had ever acted like that when it was younger. However, he doubted it. Naruto looked to his left to see the large field. In the middle of the field was a training spot slightly resembling Training Ground 7, without the river. Naruto looked forward and followed the dirt road towards a house not far in the distance. Naruto stared longingly at the building. It was a large 3-story house that seemed to radiate an aura of warmth. Naruto smiled at all the things he would enjoy in the house. He remembered that there was an onsen in the back and was looking forward to feeling its effects. First things first, he thought as he entered the house, intent on reaching the library to find a certain scroll. Sakura yawned as she entered Training Ground 7 at 7:30. She noticed that she was the first one there as she sat against one of the 3 wooden posts. She let her mind wander as she stared at her surroundings. She had to admit, it was quite beautiful for a place to train. I wonder if Ino Pig is doing the same thing. She sighed as she recalled her early childhood and her friendship with the Yamanaka. Then, she remembered how Ino had been looking at her blonde teammate the day before. The look on her face will be priceless when I tell her that she was ogling Naruto. Her memories of what had transpired the night before resurfaced. Naruto never would have thought he'd been through all that the way he acts. She continued recalling how guilty her mother had seemed and how much she had cried. Then Sasuke appeared. He was slowly making his way over to the pink-haired Kunoichi. Sakura blushed when Sasuke stopped in front of her and stared at her for a moment. "Did you have breakfast?" he asked. Sakura's brain seemed to have come to a sudden halt. Then, one thought ran through her head. Sasuke stared at the girl for a few seconds before repeating the question, which snapped the fangirl to reality. "Oh, no," she said meekly as she recalled that the Uchiha had apparently agreed with Naruto's suggestion. Was the reply she received as the Uchiha walked over to a tree and leaned against it. Sakura stared longingly at the brooding boy, thinking about all the possibilities that came with him talking to her. Sasuke was frowning at the Kunoichi that was staring at him intently. Naruto pointed it out to us, and yet she ignored it. I thought that she was supposed to be the smartest girl in our graduating class. Maybe Naruto isn't the dope, she is. Sasuke then remembered what he had seen Naruto do the night before. How'd he get through that barrier, and yet I couldn't? Is he stronger than me? Sasuke reminded himself of the look in Naruto's eyes, one that told of power and knowledge. For that reason, Sasuke was slowly beginning to acknowledge the blonde, unconsciously at least. Sasuke listened to the leaves of the trees around them rustle from the soft breeze that was blowing that day. Seems peaceful, thought Sasuke. It had seemed like a few hours had passed, and there was still no sign of Kakashi or Naruto. Sakura had attempted to move closer to the Uchiha, but he was sitting in a tree now as Sakura sat against the trunk of a tree a few yards from Sasuke. Why do you think Naruto's late? Same with Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked. Sasuke didn't look in the Kunoichi's direction as he grunted. Sakura sighed. Why won't he give me a straight answer? Because you're weak, came her answer. She looked up in surprise to see a fatigued Naruto. What? Naruto looked in Sasuke's direction and then back to her. He wants someone strong to help him. He doesn't like to be held back. I thought you already knew this about your precious Sasuke-kun. Sasuke had jumped out of the tree and walked up to Naruto. You're pretty observant, Dobe. Naruto shrugged, not caring about the kunoichi that had flames dancing in her eyes. I don't really care, but it's kinda obvious. Sakura had her fist clenched and was thinking about punching at Naruto's head when a pop was heard and Kakashi appeared, holding Naruto's shoulder with his eye smile. Sakura, I would hold back if I were you, he said as he glanced at his young charge. Sakura, who had her fist raised, looked at Naruto and then Kakashi questioningly. Naruto had obviously been training recently and might accidentally hurt you, as he is still in what many would call battle mode, explained the Cyclops. Naruto just chuckled. Were you spying on me? Kakashi shook his head. You look fatigued, and I have a great sense of smell, and it has been obvious that you have been training with someone who trains for youthfulness. Naruto shuddered at this word. Please refrain from ever saying that word around me. Kakashi had actually had to suppress a shudder when he had realized what he had said. I hope I don't wake up with the same hair and wardrobe, thought the copy Nin, imagining what he would look like with those two factors. Mentally shaking himself, he took his hand off of Naruto and produced two bells. Well, now that we're all here, let's get started, shall we? The three genin were now at attention. Two of them seemed to have ignored my warning about breakfast, thought Kakashi as he noticed their posture. He then remembered what Naruto had suggested when Kakashi had left. He wondered if this team would pass. I hope so. All the three of you have to do is get one of these bells, and you'll get lunch. Sakura had realized that what Naruto had suggested was good advice. But there are only two bells and three of us, she exclaimed. Kakashi, I smiled again. Very perceptive, yes. There are only two bells, and whoever doesn't get a bell will be tied to that post over there and have their lunch eaten by me. Also, the loser shall be sent back to the academy. Sasuke and Sakura's eyes widened when they heard this. Naruto, however, looked bored. If you intend on getting a bell, you will have to come at me with the intent to kill. The three genin nodded, one of them quickly remembering the plan that he had come up with. On your mark, get set, go. Two people quickly took off into the forest surrounding them, while two stayed in the clearing, facing each other. The other two are hidden quite well. Naruto just stood there, glancing at the spots that his teammates were hiding. HM? He knows where the other two are already? Interesting. At this, Kakashi reached into his pouch to grab his favorite novel to find that it was missing. I know that I brought it with me. Did it fall out? Naruto smirked when he saw his sensei looking for the missing orange book that was now behind his back. Naruto had gotten the idea from Mato Guy that morning while training. Flashback. Naruto had come back to the field of eyebrows to participate in training with the two taijutsu specialists. It was currently 7 and Naruto was supposed to take his bell test in a few hours. He knew that Kakashi would be late. He always was. When he was halfway through sparring with the older of the two specialists, he had mentioned his test, and Guy had sprung into action. YOSH, my eternal rival, may be cool and hip. That book of his, however, restricts his flames of youth from blazing as much as mine. I am sure that if that book were used as a bargaining chip, that he would surely cave. I, however, do not have such a weakness such as that. Flashback ends. Naruto wondered if Guy had purposely mentioned this so that Naruto would try this method out. Only one way to find out. Hey Kakashi-sensei, looking for this. Naruto held the book out and grinned at the look of shock that Kakashi had. How did you do that? He asked. He couldn't remember when a young shinobi had pulled a fast one on him. When you appeared and had your hand on my shoulder, it gave me the perfect opportunity to take it, so I did. Now give me a bell, or I'll burn it. I've underestimated him, and now my precious book is in danger. Kakashi lunged at Naruto at a quick speed and grabbed his book from Naruto, who hadn't reacted quickly enough. Smart Naruto, I didn't realize that you knew of that weak point. However, you've threatened one of my most precious objects, and for that, I will make sure that you lose. Kakashi was only throwing empty threats, but Naruto didn't need to know. Sasuke smirked. Not bad, Naruto. I guess you did your research on this guy. He watched as the two shinobi in the clearing stared each other down when Kakashi broke the silence. I guess I'll teach you a lesson during this little exercise. Lesson 1, Taijutsu. Naruto charged Kakashi when he had finished talking. Damn it, Naruto, he's a jonin, thought Sasuke. As Naruto charged, he thought one thing. I need to tone it down for this. I don't need Kakashi getting serious. Naruto aimed a kick for Kakashi's head, who quickly ducked underneath the leg. Naruto recovered as he pulled out a kunai and launched it at his sensei. Kakashi was thinking about how easy catching the kunai was going to be when Naruto flipped through some familiar seals. He knows this. Kunai kakebunsin no jutsu. The one kunai became 50, and Kakashi was forced to use a kawarimi. When the log had hit the ground, Naruto was on the defensive. Kakashi was using a taijutsu style that seemed to be similar to the Jukin and the Goken styles. Kakashi threw a punch through Naruto's guard, forcing the blonde to drop to the ground to be met with Kakashi's sandal. Naruto felt the foot connect with his face and was thrown into the air. He quickly controlled his flailing body and landed smoothly, only to shoot forward even faster. Here I thought that I wouldn't have to use Goken. Naruto was back on the offensive, throwing punch after punch at the copy, needing only to have them all blocked or parried. Kakashi had grabbed hold of Naruto's arm and pivoted to the right, using the momentum to throw the blonde at the river. Naruto crashed through the clear surface of the river, and as he was sinking towards the murky bottom, he made a familiar cross sign. Sasuke was having a hard time keeping up with the two as they fought and was slightly disappointed when Naruto landed in the river. Still, how does he move so quickly? His thoughts were interrupted when someone covered Sasuke's mouth. Don't move, came Naruto's voice. Sakura had had a similar reaction to Sasuke's when watching the fight. I thought he was the dead last, and here he is showing me, and Sasuke went up. She then felt a presence behind her and drew a kunai from her pouch to find that there weren't any there. Looking for these? Sakura whirled around to see a frowning Naruto holding her 5 kunai that she had on her. How did... She was interrupted when Sasuke appeared. Sasuke-kun, she yelled. Naruto threw her a look that clearly said, shut the hell up. Sakura looked down at the ground, blushing from her loud voice. Kakashi had probably heard her. It's fine for now, seeing as how Kakashi is occupied, said Naruto. Occupied? She asked. Sasuke pointed to the clearing, and she followed his line of sight. There in the field were 5 Narutos fighting one Kakashi. How are you here and there? She asked. Kagebunshin, now listen up, Sakura. I have a plan to get those bells. Kakashi wasn't surprised to find that Naruto knew the Kagebunshin technique. He was surprised that they were all dodging his blows. Their teamwork seemed flawless as they were all the same person, but it did give Kakashi a peek at what could be accomplished if Naruto had gotten wind of the true purpose to the exercise. Only half an hour left, and no teamwork at all. Kakashi saw an opening and took it, as he drew a kunai and threw it into the middle of the clones. On the kunai was an explosive tag. Payback Naruto. The tag exploded and destroyed 4 of the Narutos, leaving one battered Naruto staring at an empty clearing. You know, a voice said behind him, "You should never expose your back to an enemy ninja." There, behind Naruto, was Kakashi holding the oh-so-familiar sign of the tiger. 1,000 years of death, yelled Kakashi as he preformed the jutsu that Naruto had been trying to avoid ever since the first time. Naruto, however, smirked and said one thing. Boom! The Naruto exploded, and Kakashi, who had not been expecting this, had barely braced himself with enough chakra to escape relatively unscathed. Kakashi was flung through the air with his clothes slightly singed. Minato-sensei, your son is fantastic. As he landed, he noticed something wrong. He was surrounded by 3 genin who all had their kunai drawn. Well, what do we have here? Thought Kakashi. You guys ready? Naruto asked. He received 2 nods of acknowledgement. All right, go. Sakura flipped through signs as she threw her kunai and watched as it tripled as it sailed through the air. At the same time, Sasuke had flipped through his own hand seals and inhaled, focusing his chakra in his lungs. Katongo Gaku no Jutsu. The large fireball flew toward its target. Naruto watched as Kakashi preformed a Kawarimi and reappeared just behind Naruto. Suddenly, Kakashi was on the defensive as Sasuke had jumped out of hiding, and the Sasuke that had just used a jutsu disappeared in a puff of smoke. Sakura flung 6 shuriken at the two, and Sasuke smirked as he held his ground as a shuriken pierced his back. Kakashi narrowed his eyes as he formed a ram seal and suppressed his chakra. Quickly breaking the Jinjutsu, he was under courtesy of a certain cherry blossom. The first thing he noticed when the Jinjutsu was gone was that there were 4 Kage Bunshins holding on to him. You move, you die, one of them said. The next thing he noticed were the 2 teammates holding bells, one blushing, one brooding. Where's the real Naruto? He asked. His question was answered by one sentence. 1,000 years of death. Kakashi was now flying through the air, holding his rear end and thinking one thing. That kid is really talented and really cruel. Chapter 4. The Bane of All Shinobi. Kakashi walked out of the river to find a grinning Naruto just a few feet from him. That's what you get for trying that technique on me, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi sighed. I guess he's right. It is a bit of an unethical jutsu to use against them. Naruto took a step forward and clenched his teeth. Kakashi noticed this and saw that the young blonde seemed to be straining himself just by standing up. Interesting. Kakashi glanced over at the 2 others to see them holding their bells, wondering what was going to happen next. Well, Naruto, it looks like you don't have a bell, Kakashi said. Might as well see if the other 2 will help him without him suggesting it. So, we passed this test with flying colors. Teamwork, Sasuke and I figured it out, and Sakura figured it out when we found her. We passed, no matter what kind of psychological torture mumbo-jumbo. Get to the speech so we can go. Some of us are busy. Kakashi's sweat dropped. Damn. Oh well, gives me more time to read. As Naruto has said, the point of this exercise was to see if you could work together as a team. Just to speed this up, I'll tell you something that a friend of mine once told me, not long before he died, that those who disobey orders are trash. Those who abandon their comrades are even lower than trash. Kakashi let it hang in the air for a moment before he spoke. Team 7, report here tomorrow at 9 to receive your first mission. With that said, Kakashi disappeared, using a Shushin Jutsu, leaving the 3 genin. Naruto turned to Sakura. So, do you want to train with me? He asked. Sakura glared at him. Hell no, you baka. Naruto just shrugged and turned to the Uchiha. What about you? He asked. Sasuke looked at Naruto, for a moment. 2 days ago, I would have said no without a thought, but he is truly strong. Sure, we're to Naruto, Sasuke asked the blonde. On second thought, Sakura began, but Naruto interrupted her. I only extended the invitation to you first for I knew you would decline. I only intend to train with Sasuke until you decide to take being a ninja seriously. If you were to fight Hinata, whom many consider the weakest of our class, you would lose. To train with me, you must be a capable kunoichi. Naruto Yubaka, I'm a very capable kunoichi. Naruto looked at her, scrutinizing her. What jutsu do you know outside of the academy jutsu? He asked. Sakura thought for a moment and came up with an answer that made her realize just how useless she was. Exactly. If you want to not be a burden, then I suggest that you start to train instead of just caring about what Sasuke might think. With that said, Naruto whirled around and walked away, Sasuke following him. Sakura sat in the field, tears stinging her eyes. I really am weak. Sasuke was impressed that Naruto had knocked the truth into Sakura's head. Nobody had been able to get through to the girl until now. They were back in the city and were walking a path toward the market district. First, we'll eat, then we need to talk, the blonde said. Sasuke nodded. He was finally going to find out just how strong Naruto was. Naruto smiled when he saw his favorite ramen stand come into view. Sasuke, however, didn't share his teammates' love for the food. No, Sasuke said as he stopped. Naruto heard him, but kept on walking. Fine by me, it just means that I can focus on my own training instead of having to help you. With that said, he left Sasuke, knowing what the Uchiha would do. Sakura had finally gotten a hold of herself and was now stalking the Uchiha. Ramen? Is that all Naruto eats? She asked herself as she remembered what Naruto had always eaten in the academy. She watched the two from a distance as they both ordered some ramen. Can't hear what they're saying. I'm going in. We totally rock. Shinaro. Sakura was now just within earshot of the small ramen stand. So, why are we here, Naruto? I thought that we were going to be training. Sasuke asked. Naruto was happily slurping up the heavenly noodles as if he didn't hear Sasuke at all. Dope, he called out. Naruto set his chopsticks down and looked at the Uchiha. Here's the deal, Sasuke. I'll train with you, but you're going to have to change. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. How so? He asked. Your attitude stinks. I'm getting really tired of it, and there is no way in hell that you're going to be making any progress as a shinobi with it. Sasuke glared at Naruto. You're so stuck up that I nearly had to beat the prospect of teamwork into your head today just to get a bell. If that were a life or death situation, we might have died because of that attitude. Sasuke had had enough and was getting up when Naruto continued. Itachi knew what had to be done, and whenever I saw him working, he never had an attitude. Sasuke whirled around to face Naruto to find that he was gone. He then felt the cold feeling of metal on his throat. It's true that emotions can get you killed on the field. However, being an emotionless bastard will get you killed no matter what. How'd he get behind me? Sasuke thought. The only reason you and Sakura even got the 2 bells was because of me. If you hadn't been so antisocial and Sakura had actually trained instead of fawning over you, then you two would have not had to depend on my skills. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but it is the truth. Sasuke stood silently as he felt the metal touch disappear. Now you have a choice. Will you drop the attitude and open up, or will you continue to weaken yourself? If you choose the correct answer, meet me at the entrance to my estate. Naruto then disappeared just as he did yesterday. Sakura had felt the slight killer intent that Naruto had used to get his point across with Sasuke and knew that a bit of it had been directed towards her. He knew I was here. She fell to the ground in fear. He knows what he's talking about. How do you know? Her inner self asked. I could feel the truth in his voice, the conviction. He's only trying to help us. Her inner self said nothing. She understood perfectly. I need to start training now. With that said, she got up off the ground and headed back to the training grounds. She needed to improve so that she didn't need to depend on the others. The Hokage sat in his office with Kurenai and Isuma sitting across from him. He's always late. Maybe he's still doing his test. Kurenai asked. The Hokage shook his head. No, he's finished already. I'm sure of it. Finally, the door opened to reveal the cyclopean subject of their conversation. It's about time, Kakashi, Isuma said. Kakashi only nodded in response. Our team's passed. Thank you for asking, Kurenai said, slightly annoyed at being ignored by the copy Nin. So, report, the aged Sandaime Hokage ordered. Team 7. He prolonged the answer as he watched the three in front of him lean forward in anticipation. Passes. The Hokage smirked. It seems Naruto is stronger than he lead us all to believe. So, what happened? Asked Kurenai, eager to hear the young Namake's skills. Well, Naruto was the first to react. Before I even told him to begin, he stole my book while my guard was down. The other three grinned. Only Konoha's #1 prankster, they all thought. When I told them to start, Haruno and Uchiha quickly hid while Naruto stayed in the open and used the book as a hostage. Kurenai and Isuma stifled a laugh, which resulted in what sounded like a snort. The Hokage didn't react on the surface, and Kakashi smirked under his mask. I quickly regained the book and faced him in a quick taijutsu match, which he followed up with a Kanai Kage Bunshin technique. The two other Jonin's jaws fell to the floor at this. We continued in a taijutsu match when he seemed up the ante. He began to use the Goken style. Jaws dropped further, and a certain Kage's eyebrows rose in surprise. I managed to throw him into the river to only be attacked by at least 20 Kage Bunshin. At this time, Naruto slipped past me and met with his teammates. He explained the concept of the test and got them to join him. After getting rid of most of the Bunshin, except for one that I thought was real, I used the 1,000 years of death technique on him only to have the Bunshin explode. This time, the Hokage's jaw slackened. He knows the Bunshin, Daibaku. I was quickly placed under a Jinjutsu, either by Naruto or Sakura, which they used to get the bells from me. By then, I realized it was a Jinjutsu only to find that Sasuke and Sakura had the bells. The others seemed very surprised. Impressive, Kurenai breathed. Indeed, Kakashi replied. So, Kakashi Ataki, one question. Where do you think Naruto stands? The Sandaime asked. Kakashi sighed. To be honest, I think he was holding back a lot. He seemed to be straining himself by holding back. If he were to go all out, I would bet he would be my equal. The Hokage nodded. After hearing of what happened at the test and seeing him use the Rasengan, I would expect that much. Naruto Namake's, you truly live up to your surname. So is that all? Actually, I wanted your opinion on something Kakashi said, as he remembered one more detail about his new charge. One week later, Sakura watched as her two teammates lunged at each other. Sasuke started with a jab followed by a leg sweep. Naruto anticipated this and quickly dodged the jab and flipped backwards, avoiding the sweep. The blonde jumped forward with his leg ready to make contact with Sasuke's head. Sasuke blocked the kick with his forearm and made for a jab at Naruto's torso. Naruto grabbed the fist an inch away and threw it to the side, also unbalancing his opponent. Seeing an opening, Naruto quickly threw his fist towards Sasuke's unprotected stomach. Sasuke felt the punch connect as the wind was knocked out of him. He knew the blonde was holding back, but it still didn't mean that it was soft. He flew backwards, skidding along the ground. Sasuke pulled a kunai out of its holster and used it to stop his momentum. Just as he felt himself slowing down, he felt the presence of his teammate behind him. He ducked down just in time to feel Naruto's fist fly through his hair. Sasuke pivoted to his left, kunai in hand, only to have it parried with Naruto's own kunai. Sasuke smirked as he saw that Naruto had disappeared. I guess we're stepping it up a notch, thought Sasuke. He felt around for any chakra signatures. He spun around his left, running through hand seals. Katan Gakakyu no Jutsu, announced the young Uchiha as he let loose a large jet of fire. It quickly formed into a large fireball as it rocketed at the Namikaze who was going through his own hand seals. Suiton Suijin Hiki. Naruto spewed out a large amount of water that quickly formed a wall around him, allowing the fire to hit it and explode into steam. Just as Naruto and Sasuke were about to start round 2, when Kakashi appeared in between the two. That was one of the Night Aims, Jutsu. Kakashi thought. Well, as impressive as this little spar is, we have another mission. You mean sure? Naruto asked, sounding slightly irritated. Kakashi smiled at the blonde. I guess you could call them chores, but it sounds more professional when you call a mission. Naruto only replied with a snort. He looked over and looked at his third teammate. I'm glad she's changing already, he thought. Sakura had definitely started to change. She still wore her usual attire, but her pouch and kunai holsters seemed to be full. Her hair had been cut, giving her the haircut that Naruto had gotten used to. She also seemed slightly stronger in Naruto's opinion. So, Kakashi, Sasuke started. Why were you late this time? Kakashi looked at his student in surprise. They actually want to know? Well, I got lost on the road of life after I helped an old lady with her groceries. Sasuke's sweat dropped as he groaned. Naruto was next to the usually brooding Uchiha, grinning like an idiot. Here, Dobe, 30 Ryu, groaned Sasuke as he handed over the money that he owed his teammate. Was I really just the source of a bet? Kakashi asked himself. I was sure it would be about a cat today. Sasuke mumbled to himself. So anyways, today we'll be walking a few dogs for the Inuzuka's veterinary clinic. Naruto grinned at this. Cool. Wonder if Sasuke thinks Hana is hot as well. They quickly made their way from their training grounds to the Inuzuka compound, where the veterinary clinic was located. Naruto entered first to see a pretty brunette with the same facial tattoos as Kiba. She seemed quite nice and had an exotic look about her. Hey there, Hana-chan, Naruto said, announcing his presence. Said Kunoichi looked up to see the handsome blonde before her. Hi there, Naruto-kun. The two had met a few days ago as she was trying to track down a missing Akamaru. It was Naruto who had accidentally come across the puppy, who seemed quite scared of the Jinchuriki. Eventually, Naruto had managed to calm the puppy down after convincing it that he was in fact Naruto. He asked the dog not to reveal to Kiba about him, which Akamaru agreed to after a belly rub. Hana had come across the belly rub and had warmed up to the blonde quite quickly. She, of course, knew of his current status and what was happening to the Kyuubi. She had never resented Naruto for his burden. So, which dogs need to be walked? He asked the Inuzuka. Sasuke and Sakura had just entered the door to find the two talking happily and found it quite strange. Well, if you and your team want to follow me. An hour later, Naruto had quickly tamed the dog he had been assigned, which was an overly large pit bull. He seemed quite ferocious at first, but Naruto had outgrowled the dog. The two were now quietly walking along with Sasuke and a German shepherd. Sakura and even Kakashi were also assigned dogs. Kakashi had, oddly enough, received a pug to walk while Sakura had gained a small border collie. The dog seemed quite drawn to Kakashi and only said copy Nin, and Naruto knew why. After another hour of walking the dogs, Kakashi announced that the mission was a success and that they were going back. Hana quickly thanked Team 7 for their help and walked them out of the store. Well, that went well, Kakashi said as he read Ica Paradise. So Sasuke, what did you think of Hana? HN, she was kind of curvy, don't you think? This caused Sasuke to blush, Kakashi to lower his book, and Sakura to seethe with anger. Sasuke thinks that whore is hot. Shinohara, we should kick that hussy's ass. Too bad she's too old for you, Sasuke. Plus, I don't think she really liked you. HN indeed, Sasuke. Naruto mocked. They made it to the Hokage Tower to see the Sandaime sitting at his usual desk with Iruka and a few others handing out missions to teams. I see that you have completed your mission, Kakashi. Kakashi nodded, not even looking up from his orange book. Well, here is the money for completing the mission. Thank you, Hokage-sama, said Kakashi as he closed his book. We're done for the day, so I guess we'll be back tomorrow to receive a few more missions. Kakashi quickly used his Shushin jutsu to escape what could have been an awkward moment. The other three Genin weren't so lucky. Damn it, Kakashi! Naruto screamed in his head. The other two were having similar thoughts. Well, I don't want to seem like a copycat, but Naruto quickly used a seal-free Shushin just like Kakashi, leaving an irritated Uchiha and a seething Haruno. The Hokage looked at the two Genin that were left. Did your sensei just call D-ranked missions chores? Naruto felt proud as he walked through the streets, heading towards Ichiraku's for some quality ramen. Sucks to be them. As he rounded a corner, he saw Team 10 and 8 arguing, or at least a member of both teams while the rest of them hung back. What did you call me, dog breath? I said you look like a portly pig. Be quiet or I will neuter you. Troublesome. What was that? The two yelled. Munch munch. Naruto's sweat dropped. Good lord, these two must be the loudest people in the land of fire, thought Naruto. Naruto watched on in slight amusement as the two continued to yell at each other. Then things got a little out of control. Ino had made a jab at Kiba's mother, which provoked a physical attack. The Inuzuka quickly drew a kunai and was just about to throw it when he was suddenly on the ground. You know, it's kind of rude to attack an unarmed woman, Naruto said from his spot on top of Kiba. Ino's mouth dropped open when she saw the hot blonde from a week ago, and he just saved her. Before she could say anything, Shino approached Naruto. Namikaze-san, he was verbally provoked by Yamanaka-san. I understand that, Shino, but to physically assault a fellow Konoha shinobi could be disastrous. Shino nodded, knowing that he wasn't going to abuse Kiba in any way. Get the hell off of me, Kiba yelled from beneath Naruto. Not until you cool down. Akamaru, could you talk some sense into him? The dog had been sitting beside Hinata as all of this was happening and walked over to the fuming and cursing Kiba. After a few barks, Kiba had stopped his thrashing and stared at the blonde that was sitting on his back. He's really that strong? He asked his partner. Bark, bark. Ino was standing there, slack-jawed. Namikaze? As in Minato Namikaze? The Yondaime? Are you going to behave? Naruto asked Kiba. Why, yes, sure. Naruto got off of Kiba and helped him to his feet. You know, you shouldn't get so riled up at a few insults. Kiba only nodded. I shouldn't mess with this guy if what Akamaru says is true. Good in you, said Naruto as he turned to Ino. I don't know who started this, and I don't care. The two of you should really tone it down. Shinobi need to be silent, not loud and obnoxious. Ino only nodded as she stared at the blonde. Maybe he is the Yondaime's son, but the fourth never got married or had any kids. So, now that all of that has been resolved, I must be going. With that said, Naruto disappeared in a whirlwind of leaves. Who was that? Choji asked as he recalled seeing him back at the academy for team selections. Is he Yondaime's son? Shino answered as he turned around, heading in the direction of a certain ramen stand. How do you know? Ino yelled out. Information is vital to the success of a mission. Therefore, I must know as much as I can so that I'm never caught unaware and possibly killed. Kiba and Hinata walked after the Abure. W, where are W? We going, Shino-kun? Asked Hinata. Ichiraku's, I must test him. Shikamaru yawned as he turned around to set off towards Choji's for some dinner. Come on, Choji, I don't want to miss your mother's cooking. Munch, munch, munch. Troublesome blondes. Shikamaru sighed as he saw that Ino was staring at the spot where Naruto had last been. I can't wait to see her face when she finds out that it's actually Naruto. It might be troublesome, though. Munch. Naruto sat slurping his noodles, wondering what had become of his teammates when he heard a buzzing sound. Shino, get this female Kakai off of me, or I will crush it. I see. You truly are a powerful shinobi, Naruto Namikaze. Kiba and Hinata's eyes widened. And Naruto, they both asked. Hey, you two. I'm sure that you two have heard the rumors of a certain genin fooling all of the Hyugas Byakugan with a henge. The two of them nodded. Take a guess of who that genin is. Naruto, I have come here to challenge you to a spar. Shino interrupted. Naruto quickly ate the remaining noodles in his bowl and turned to Shino. Where and when? You may pick the location now. Naruto nodded. Might as well do it at my team's training grounds. With that said, Naruto laid some money on the counter and got up. Follow me, if you can keep up. Naruto then seemed to disappear. Shino and Hinata also did the same, leaving a gaping Kiba. Akamaru, can you track them down? He asked. Bark. Good, let's go now. Hinata was surprised at how fast her teammate was traveling. She was even more surprised at her own. For some reason, she felt the need to come see the two fight each other and was driven by that desire. Naruto-kun, how different are you truly from what we have all seen? Naruto was easily jumping from building to building, which quickly turned into trees. Naruto grinned when he felt two chakra signatures easily keeping up with him. They're stronger than I gave him credit for. He felt two more chakra signatures not far behind. Kiba needs to train more. He finally reached the clearing of Training Ground 7. He jumped into the clearing and felt the other two jump down. We'll wait for the other two, said Naruto. Shino nodded and Hinata tried to fight down a blush, a fight she was losing. Finally, after 10 minutes, Kiba and Akamaru burst through the brush. Now then, state the rules, Shino. Anything goes, no killing. Fair enough. Hinata, will you be the referee? Hinata nodded, not trusting her voice. Shall we begin? Shino asked. No, I want one more thing. Name it. Kiba, and you shall fight me as a team. Does that mean that Lady Hinata will be on your team? Naruto shook his head. No, then the teams will be unfair. Hinata's fighting style would crush the two of you if it were combined with my knowledge and abilities. Hinata nearly fainted at the compliment. Shino nodded once again. Fine. Yahoo, you hear that, Akamaru? Akamaru looked at the Namikaze, seeing his posture, feeling his chakra. Akamaru already could tell what the outcome would be. Already, SS set go. Shino was the first to react. He threw a few shuriken at the blonde. Naruto ducked underneath the projectiles. Kiba had decided to use his clan's technique. Gitsuga. Kiba spun in the air, creating what looked like a small tornado heading towards Naruto. Naruto flashed through a few seals. Suddenly, Shino, Kiba, Akamaru, and Hinata were bathed in darkness. Kokwanjio no Jutsu. Naruto grinned as he announced the Jinjutsu. Kiba zoomed right past Naruto and stopped his jutsu. Naruto heard a buzzing sound again and cursed his stupidity. Naruto quickly flared his chakra, killing the female Kakai bug that was still on him. "Impressive, Naruto," came Shino's voice. "Thanks." Jujuin Bunshin. Kiba's voice rang out. "Damn," thought Naruto. He ran through a few hand seals as he heard the unannounced Getsuga that was coming towards him. "Kanashivari no jutsu." Naruto smirked when he heard the sound of the Getsuga halt, and two bodies crashed to the ground. "One-on-one now, Shino." "I see." Naruto flipped through a few more hand seals. "Kase no Jaiba." Naruto felt the air shift as he pushed the blade of wind towards Shino with a blast of chakra. Naruto lifted the Jinjutsu, only to see Shino burst into thousands of Kakai bugs. A Kakai Bunshin. Naruto felt Shino hold a kunai to his neck. "Yield," he commanded. Naruto smiled as he heard this. "No." With that said, Naruto reverted into water. "Mizu Bunshin," Shino exclaimed. "Doton Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu," came Naruto's voice. Shino felt his ankles being grabbed, and before he knew it, his body was underground while his head jutted out from the ground. There stood Naruto, with Shino's kunai in his left hand, holding it pointed at Shino's forehead. "Yield," Naruto asked with a smile on his face. "You didn't even try, did you?" Naruto's smile widened. "Pretty observant, aren't you?" "I yield," he replied. "Well, I better go fix Kiba up," said Naruto as he got up and turned to the immobile figures of Kiba and Akamaru. "What about me?" Shino asked. "She'll help you," Naruto said as he pointed behind him. Shino couldn't see behind him. His Kakai bugs did tell him who it was, however. "Kurenai-sensei," said Shino. "Just give me 1 second, Shino," Kurenai said as she preformed a jutsu to release Shino. Naruto walked up to the immobile forms of Kiba and Akamaru. "Do you two give up?" Naruto grinned. "I take your silence as a yes." He quickly formed a few seals and smacked the two on their foreheads. Kiba blinked as he felt his limbs unlock. "Thank God. Man, Naruto, where'd you learn that jutsu?" Naruto shrugged. "Known it for a while." Kurenai and Shino had just approached the two talking genin. "Where did he learn the Kokwanjio no Jutsu?" "That was an extremely powerful Jinjutsu," Kurenai asked herself. "Hey, Hinata," Naruto said. Hinata blushed as she was being addressed by her crush. "Tell your father to come over any time. He wanted to talk to me, so I thought I should let him know that I'm free. You should come too." Hinata nodded, once more not trusting her voice. Kurenai saw this and grinned. "So this is who Hinata likes." "So Naruto," Kurenai said, "I heard that your team holds the record for capturing Tora. How did you do it?" Naruto grinned as he remembered how that had happened. Flashback. Naruto and his team had finally arrived in a clearing that the target had been to recently. It had already been 10 minutes, and Naruto was losing his patience. Kakashi could sense this and was about to talk to the blonde when said blonde spoke up. "I'm getting tired of this already, so I'm going to end this mission." Naruto made a cross sign and created about 50 Kage Bunshin. He nodded to them. They nodded back and ran toward the target. Naruto sat down, not even telling his teammates what he was doing. The others decided to rest for a moment when the ground shook and a loud explosion was heard. Kakashi, Sakura, and Sasuke whirled around to see a large pillar of smoke further in the forest. Before they could react, another explosion was heard, and another. 12 explosions later, one of Naruto's Bunshin came into view, holding the dreaded Tora. "Mission accomplished," Naruto said. Flashback ends. Naruto chuckled at the memory. "Good thing I threatened that thing. Now, my team will never have to actually search for it. It'll find us, or else. Let's just say that Kage Bunshin is a wonderful jutsu." Kurenai nodded, still unaware of how he had achieved what only the Yondaime and Tsunade had. 10 minutes for that mission seemed impossible. Well, guys, I have to get going. A lot of stuff I need to take care of. See ya. Naruto quickly used a Shushin to leave Team 8 to themselves. Naruto was climbing into his bed, feeling tired from the morning workout with Guy and Lee, and a pointless D rank when he felt a tug on his mind. What does he want now? Naruto allowed the tug to guide his mind as he fell into an unconscious state. When Naruto opened his eyes, he saw the Kyuubi staring at him. "What's up?" Naruto asked. "This will be the last time I will speak with you until the transfer is done. Therefore, I will speak with you about your healing." Naruto nodded. "Your healing will be dependent on your chakra from now on. It will act just as your healing acted when using my chakra. It will weaken any poisons in your blood or chakra system to the point that your body can easily kill it without your bloodline. This way, if you are exposed to the same type of poison a second time, your body can recognize it and destroy it without needlessly using your chakra. Your healing will take minimal amounts of chakra. If your arm were to be vaporized, it would take the same amount as a single Kage Bunshin to heal completely. You can, of course, control your healing ability, although I don't see what the point in that would be." Naruto nodded. "Well, I understand the whole thing. Guess I'm smarter than people give me credit for." Kyuubi's sweat dropped. That was the severely simplified version. "Kid, try to refrain from running out of chakra. It wouldn't do much good for you. Thankfully, the healing ability also helps with your chakra. If you were to run out of chakra, it wouldn't take very long for your chakra stores to refill." Naruto smiled. "Wow, it kind of sounds like the Kagaya bloodline." Kyuubi shook his head. "Kinda. The Kagaya Kekkei Jinkai creates denser bones to use as weapons and heals any wounds created by using the bones. Wounds inflicted upon them by an external force heal naturally." "Oh, I see." Kyuubi shook his head. "Well, that's really all I have time to explain. If we keep this conversation going, it will speed up my death, and you will not receive the final tale. So until the transfer is complete, I must say goodbye." "Gotcha." Naruto felt him leaving his mindscape to return to his room. "Well, this will be interesting." Naruto then turned onto his side and promptly fell asleep. Chapter 5. Namake's Offer. "Naruto, your flames of youth burn as brightly as ever." Naruto could have sworn that he felt his eardrum burst as he listened to the spandex-clad Jonin go on his youth rant. Naruto had just completed his usual morning training with the two shinobi who were considered the best taijutsu users in Fire Country. "Yeah, thanks guys, sensei." Naruto sighed as he rubbed the throbbing ear. "Thank God for my healing," thought Naruto as the pain subsided quickly. Guy turned around suddenly, flashing his sparkling smile with his nice guy pose. "Good morning to you too," yelled the Jonin. Naruto looked around Guy to see that Neji and Tenten had just arrived. "Hey there, Tenten-chan," exclaimed Naruto. Tenten smiled and waved at the handsome blonde. "So how's the blade training going, Naruto-kun?" she asked. Naruto grinned. "Fantastic. I've mastered 2 of them, and the 3rd is well on its way." Tenten smiled at her friend. "Great. I expect to see them all when you've mastered them." "It's been nearly 2 months of training with 3. I'll be finished in about another 2. I hope." Naruto's attention shifted to the Hyuga. "So, Neji, Naruto, you gonna take me up on that offer? Fate has already decided that I would win." Naruto scowled. "Fate is a huge load of crap." Neji activated his Byakugan in slight anger. Says the man that is friends with most of the high-ranking officials of the village. "Friends? Please, Neji, I've told you before that many of them still despise me for what I used to be." "Which is?" Naruto didn't answer. Tenten and Guy knew the reason. Guy, of course, was old enough to know, and Naruto had told Tenten because Naruto trusted her enough and knew that she was a good-natured person. Neither held a grudge, but both knew that Niji probably wouldn't agree with the two. If I told you, I would make one more enemy for something out of my control. Let's just say that your little caged bird seal doesn't even compare to a seal I've had my entire life. What could be worse than a seal to control me? Beat me in a spar, and I shall allow those two to tell you. Niji saw Tenten visibly flinch at this. Tenten, said Kunoichi, snapped to attention. Yes, Niji. What he says, is it true? From what Niji could see from Tenten's posture when she said the next sentence intrigued him. He definitely has a seal much more damaging than yours. HM. From her posture when she said this to Guy's increased heart rate, he truly does have a similar condition. Or worse. Fine. I accept, announced the Hyuga as he got into his Juken stance. Naruto grinned as he got into a Goken stance. Great. Now I shall show you a technique that will render your Juken style utterly useless, he said as he drew a kunai. Tenten, will you be the referee? Naruto asked. Tenten nodded. 1-2 go. Niji shot forward, reaching out to end the fight quickly by shutting down the Tenketsu around the first chakra gate to knock the blonde out. Unfortunately, the young Namikaze tilted to the left, avoiding the strike, grabbed the Hyuga by the forearm, spun on his heel, and threw him towards one of the training posts. Niji controlled the momentum of his body to land on top of the training post. What he saw next confused the Hyuga. Naruto threw a kunai past the Hyuga and lodged into a tree. Niji bolted towards the blonde again, intent on actually striking the Namikaze. Naruto circled around the training field, leading the Hyuga after him. What's he doing? Tenten asked her sensei. Those kunai he's throwing don't even have exploding tags on them, and they don't even come close to hitting him. Guy didn't answer his student for a moment. Keep watching. After the 9th kunai, watch Niji closely. Tenten only nodded as Naruto threw a 7th kunai, which missed Niji by at least 6 inches. Niji was getting irritated by the blonde. It seemed as if Naruto was making a fool out of the Hyuga. Damn him. I'm a Hyuga, a prodigy. Naruto threw 2 more kunai after dodging 6 Juken strikes. The 2 kunai lodged themselves in the dirt, 6 feet from each other. Now, then, Naruto said as he ran through hand seals. What? Suddenly, Niji felt a pulse. It felt as if the ground beneath him had just pulsed, like a heartbeat. Now Niji, hit me with your best shot. Niji pushed the thought of the pulse into the back of his mind as he charged at top speed towards the blonde. It ends now. Naruto stood there, smirking at the rage on his opponent's face. You are within my divination. As he said this, Niji felt something different as he launched his attack. 2 palms. Niji struck Naruto to find that he was unaffected. 4 palms. 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms. Naruto stood there completely unscathed. Ow, asked Niji. Achimon kyuhyo no jutsu. What? It means chakra gates shut down. It closes the gates so much that it disrupts the flow of your chakra and makes ninjutsu, jinjutsu, and your very own Juken style utterly useless. How did you accomplish that? Asked Niji as he attempted to flare his chakra. The kunai I threw at seals engraved into the handle. If they are thrown into a pattern of a 5-point star with the 5 main kunai, the points of the star, and the 4 other kunai at the points where the lines intersect, then the seals on the handles are activated, creating a field in between the 5 main kunai that closes the chakra gates of my enemy. It recognizes my own chakra, so it doesn't shut my own down. So, do you give up? He asked as he drew a kunai. Niji quickly went through his list of options before coming to one conclusion. I forfeit. Naruto smiled as he pocketed the kunai in his hand. Good choice. Well, there's one flaw in this technique. If one of the 5 outer or main kunai is removed, then the whole jutsu fails. Why the extra 4? They strengthen the jutsu, and can act as decoys. If my opponent goes for one of those kunai, then I can eliminate them before they actually deactivate the jutsu. Tennin's jaw had dropped at this point. He's a genius, she thought as she watched the white-coated shinobi pick up the kunai for his jutsu. Excellent work, Naruto. You have created a fantastic technique that clearly shows that your flames of youth burn brightly. Naruto flinched at the volume, but shook it off. Thanks, guy-sensei. By the way, where's Lee? Tintin asked. As if on cue, the second spandex wearing shinobi in Kanahagakure launched through the trees and into the clearing. Naruto, I have completed the task I was given. Great. How did it go? Gai-sensei, your rival's flames of youth will burn brightly this day, as his unyouthful book has been burned. Guys seemed to be in shock at this. Kakashi in no Aika was like seeing what was behind his mask. For the first time in a very long time, Mato Guy was speechless. Well, I need to go now, seeing as how Kakashi might be on time because of this. He'll probably think it was me. With that, Naruto shoe-shined away. Sakura had just finished her morning training and was feeling proud of herself. For the past month and a half, she had kept up with her personal training. It was starting to show. She looked down at the lake she was standing on. She had read in a book about different chakra control exercises. She had quickly mastered tree walking and had moved on to water walking. These two exercises had been mastered, and now she was doing them to gain more chakra. She looked out at the training field to see that Naruto had just appeared. She lost her focus and fell into the lake below her. Naruto was grinning when he saw the pink-haired Kunoichi fall into the water, just as he had done so many times when he had first met Jiraiya. "Hey, Sakura," he called out. He saw the head of pink hair break the surface of the clear water. "Come here." Sakura felt her heart rate increase as she swam towards the blonde. "After 2 months of ignoring me, he's paying attention to me. Why? Maybe he still likes you." Sakura climbed out of the lake only to feel a large gust of wind dry her off. "What was that?" she asked. Naruto only grinned. "Nice chakra control there, Sakura." Sakura felt her face heat up and was attempting to control the blushing. "Thanks, Naruto. So, what else have you learned?" Sakura was taken aback by the question. "I already know that you've been doing some basic elemental chakra manipulation for your water affinity." "How did you know?" Sakura blurted out. "Please, you're not the only one who trains early in the morning, Sakura." "Oh, so, learn any water jutsu yet?" Sakura shook her head. "Well, ask Kakashi-sensei for a jutsu or two. I'm pretty sure that he knows quite a few of them." "Oh, thanks," she said as she looked down at the ground. "Damn, I thought he was going to teach us one." "I know," thought a disappointed Sakura. "However, I know a jutsu or two if you want to know them." Sakura's head shot up, and Naruto could have sworn that she had just broken the sound barrier. "Really?" she asked enthusiastically. "Yeah, I'll show you one jutsu that I'll teach you. However, it's extremely powerful. Think you can handle it?" Sakura nodded without a second thought. "Shinaro, Naruto-kun is totally going to teach us an awesome jutsu. He's so hot." Normally, Sakura would disagree with this thought. Naruto had changed, however. He was not the annoying academy student. He was probably the strongest genin alive. "All right, Sakura, stand behind me while I demonstrate this jutsu." Naruto created a Kage Bunshin, which jumped back so that they were 30 feet apart. Alrighty then. Naruto ran through the necessary hand seals. Suiton Daibakufu no Jutsu. A large spinning pillar of water shot from the lake and towards the Bunshin at a tremendous speed. Sakura's jaw dropped when she saw the clone obliterated by the powerful technique. Naruto grinned when he saw her reaction. It takes a lot of chakra to use that technique at that size. When I first used it, it was tiny and even a small rodent wouldn't have had trouble dodging it. Sakura was so amazed by the display of power that she hardly even heard what Naruto was saying. Sakura, Sakura. Hey! Sakura was snapped out of her trance as she looked at the tall blonde. So here are the seals. Naruto then began to relay the seals slowly to her so that she could memorize them. Practice it after the mission. We don't want you to run out of chakra before the day ends. Sakura nodded silently as she went over the seals in her head and how to form water-based chakra. Then, she remembered something she had read. Hey Naruto, can you use Suiton techniques without being near a river or a lake? Naruto smiled. The night aim could. I know that, but what about you? Naruto only shrugged. Maybe. Sakura glared at the young Namikaze in slight anger. Thanks for the straight answer, she thought sarcastically. So, Sasuke should be here in the next half hour, and Kakashi should be here in the next 2. Naruto grinned at Sakura's attempt at a conversation. So how about Ino? He asked. Sakura clenched her fist in anger. Why is he talking about that pig? She seems interesting. Is she single? Naruto asked as he watched Sakura's emotions play across her face in amusement. How should I know? Sakura yelled loudly. Naruto chuckled at Sakura's answer. Come on, Sakura. Can't you take a joke? Sakura was seething with anger being made fun of by the class dope. He isn't a dope. He just taught us an amazingly powerful Suiton jutsu without even asking for anything in return, warned Sakura's inner self. You're right, but that just wasn't kosher. So, you're here early, Sasuke, Naruto said towards the trees. Yeah, and Kakashi-sensei told us to actually be on time today. Naruto nodded silently. He knew why they were on time today. Flashback. Naruto and his team had just completed another pointless D-ranked mission and were being excused when Naruto asked to talk to the Sandaime privately. G-san, he started when they entered his office. I want to take a look at some of the C-ranked missions that are available for tomorrow. Why would that be Naruto? There is a specific C rank that I want. How do you know of the C rank? Premonition. Now, Naruto had actually had a few premonitions in his own time, as had the 4 Hokages. Usually, these were not taken lightly, and the Sandaime knew this. Premonitions always lead to something bigger than they thought. Dream. Naruto nodded. What of? A demon. Naruto smirked. Not Kyuubi or an actual demon. This was a man, not a sacrifice. There are many people who have gained the title of demon through their actions, Naruto. The blonde nodded as the Sandaime walked to his desk and pulled out 12 scrolls. These are the current C-ranked mission scrolls that I have received. Does this mean that you're letting my team go on a C rank? The Sandaime nodded. If I approve of the mission that you pick. However, I will need to know more of this premonition. Naruto shook his head. It's best if I don't tell you. The Sandaime sighed. So be it, Naruto. Naruto picked up a scroll and read through it. Not this one, he thought. As he picked up the next one, he contemplated how he would save the boy's life. Haku, this time, I will save you, even if I have to save your master. He picked up the 10th scroll and found what he was looking for. This one, he said quickly as he tossed the open scroll to the Sandaime, who caught it with surprising agility. An escort mission a wave? That hardly sounds like the type of mission that involves a demon. Naruto shrugged. Not many C ranks do. Sarutobi laughed. True. So, any word from Kyuubi in the last month? Naruto shook his head. No. However, I do think the transfer is close to ending. My gut tells me that it'll probably happen in the next month or so. As long as it isn't during the Chunin exams. Oh, Are those coming up soon? The Sandame mentally slapped himself for letting that information slip. Well, don't worry, Ji-san. I won't tell anybody. The aged Hokage sighed in relief. Thank God. Yeah, so you'll tell Kakashi about the mission? Yes. I will also be telling him to keep his guard up. Naruto nodded. It won't matter anyways. We got through this the first time, when it was a surprise. One more question. Go ahead, Naruto. What would happen if a Nuke from another village wanted to join ours? It depends. Would there be a possibility of letting that ninja join? The Sandame stared into the Namikaze's eyes, searching for a few minutes before he answered. Yes, there's a possibility. Thanks, just wondering. The Hokage nodded. Well, Naruto, I have much work I must do, so you'll have to excuse me. It's okay, Ji-san. I need you to keep this village floating for me until I become Hokage. Naruto then jumped out the open window. Still the same old Naruto underneath it all. Flashback ends. Maybe we'll be getting a higher ranked mission, Naruto suggested. Actually, came their sensei's voice. We have a C rank mission today. Sakura jumped in the air joyously. Naruto and Sasuke high-fived, and Kakashi looked on in amusement. Head home and pack everything you need for a C-ranked mission. I'm sure you remember the lesson on C-ranked missions that I gave you, correct? Ichiai, chorus Sasuke, and Sakura. Meet me at the gate in 1 hour. Oh, and Naruto? Tell Lee I owe him. Kakashi then shoe-shined away. Naruto stood there, thinking of what was to come for the spandex-clad ninja. Kakashi is probably buying another copy right now. That must be why he gave us an hour. Then it's off to Wave and... Ah, crap. I have to deal with Inari again. With that said, he stormed off towards the main gates. When he arrived, he saw Kakashi reading his brand new book as expected with Tazuna sitting not far away from the Scarecrow Ninja, drinking sake. Here we go. Sasuke was the next to arrive 10 minutes later, and then Sakura 20 after Sasuke. These three are my bodyguards, a blonde, an emo, and a girl. Sasuke glared slightly at the drunk, and Sakura was about to pound him into the ground. Naruto, however, stared at the man before disappearing entirely and reappearing behind the client with a kunai to his neck. Believe me when I say that we are all that is needed for this mission, Tazuna-san. Tazuna gulped when he heard the sentence, along with the slight killer intent that came with it. Sasuke would probably be enough if it weren't for a certain midget, Naruto whispered in his ear. Don't worry, I won't tell the others about who's after you, until I have to, he whispered again as he felt Tazuna shake. He took the kunai away from the man's neck and put it in its holster. Come on, Kakashi-sensei, we should get going now. Kakashi nodded. Let's head out. The walk was fairly quiet as they walked along the dirt road towards their destination. The sun was shining and the birds were chirping. It was overall a peaceful journey. 3 individuals were on high alert, though. Tazuna was looking out for any bandits or ninja hired by Gato. Naruto was expecting a puddle anytime now, and Kakashi was reading a brand new copy of Ica Paradise. Or that was what it looked like. Kakashi was looking out for anything that seemed remotely out of place. Then 2 of the 5 saw it. A puddle, even though it hadn't rained for days. Kakashi noticed that Sasuke, Sakura, and Tazuna, who were at the front of the group, passed it without a second, though. His one available, I then turned to Naruto, who was pulling out a scroll. Naruto caught Kakashi's eye, and he quickly understood what it meant. Let me take care of them. Kakashi quickened his pace so that he was right behind Tazuna, leaving Naruto about 8 feet behind the group. Then, the puddle morphed into a pair of men. One of them shot towards the blonde, intent on tearing the genin to pieces with their chain. What they didn't expect was for the blonde to quickly nick his thumb and drag the blood from his new wound along the open scroll he was holding. The next thing the two demon brothers knew, their chain had been hacked to pieces by a large sword. The sword was completely flawless in its make. The blade started out wide at the hilt and grew thinner halfway up. The handguard seemed to be a hollow rectangular cube, with the top missing, allowing things to be placed there. Author's note: this is one of Cloud Strife's swords in Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. I'll post a picture for it later. Keep checking my profile, winky face. Naruto channeled a bit of chakra into it, causing the sword to widen a bit with a click. Naruto disappeared as the two demon brothers felt immense pain throughout their bodies. The last thing they saw was their blood erupting from their bodies. Sasuke, Sakura, and Tazuna gaped at what had just transpired while Kakashi stared wide-eyed at the blade in Naruto's hand. "Naruto, where did you get that blade?" he asked. "My father found all 6 of the blades during the Third Great Shinobi War. Of course, he never found out how to truly use all of the blades. At least 2 of them from what I've read in his notes. I never knew that he found the Heaven Key. I never thought I would see one of the 9 blades of the Kyuubi no Kitsune." The two genin and the bridge builders' jaws dropped at this. The 9 blades of the Kyuubi, are they truly real? The 9 blades of the Kyuubi representing each tail, the most powerful and sought-out weapons in the world created by what they are named after. The very flames of hell used to shape the metal, which forged the most powerful and unbreakable blades in existence. The key of hell, otherwise known as Masamian. The key of earth, known as Suba. The key of Makai, known as Samehade. The 6 parts of the Heaven Key, or the Tokonokuni Hiketsu, are the blades my father found. Each of the 9 blades are equally powerful. "And you can use the Tokonokuni Hiketsu?" Sasuke asked. "Kinda. I can only use 3 of the swords to a certain extent." Sakura's jaw was on the ground in surprise. "Naruto, you did a great job and all, but we could have interrogated those 2 about why they were after us." "It's okay, Kakashi-sensei. I know what they were after and why." Naruto glanced over at Tazuna. "Care to tell them, or shall I?" Tazuna looked at Naruto with a look that clearly asked for pity. "Fine, I will." Naruto launched into an explanation of the situation in Wave Country and how Gato was after Tazuna. "So shall we go back to the village and talk to the Sandaime about this?" Kakashi asked Naruto. Naruto glanced back to Tazuna, who was looking at his feet in shame. "No, I knew of the conditions of this mission before we were even assigned to it. I'll talk to you about it later, Kakashi-sensei," he said when he saw the look Kakashi gave him. Team 7 and their escort were walking along a day later. Sasuke was paying more attention to his blonde teammate, as was Sakura. Sasuke had been completely awed by the skill displayed by Naruto and was sure that he was on par with his older brother. Sakura was staring at the blonde and had to control her inner self from getting too imaginative. She had been completely impressed with the blonde's skill and his kindness that he had shown Tazuna. Kakashi had put his book away after agreeing with Naruto that the next person would be at least a Jonin-level shinobi. Tazuna was feeling completely safe with Naruto by his side after seeing his kinjutsu skills with a legendary blade that every nation knew of. Naruto knew what was coming next as he launched a kunai into the bushes. Like last time, a snow hare. Any minute now. Kakashi inspected the bush to find the snow hare and figured out that it was for a kawarimi. They walked on for a few minutes when a whistling noise was heard. The noise got louder as Naruto and Kakashi pushed the other 3 to the ground as they felt something slice through the air above them. Team 7 looked up to see a large Zanbatsu in the side of a tree with a large man standing on the hilt. "Zabuza Momochi, Demon of the Mist," announced Kakashi. Kakashi Hitaki, the copy Nin. It truly is a pleasure to face you in combat. Could you hand over the old man? I've kind of been sent to kill him. Team 7, protect Tizuna. I'll handle this, Kakashi said as he pulled his Hitade up to reveal his Sharingan. The Sharingan, Sasuke exclaimed mentally. Naruto tuned everything out as Sasuke explained the Sharingan to Sakura. Now let's see, where is he? He sniffed the air, trying to catch any unfamiliar sense. He's better hidden than I expected. He then concentrated, sensing for any chakra signatures. Many ANBU knew how to do this. Naruto had been taught by Jiraiya and had surprised the pervert at how easy it was for the blonde. Jiraiya had then claimed that Naruto was better at detecting chakra signatures than the Yondaime, who had never overlooked anybody on the battlefield, which helped with his Hiraishin no jutsu. Then he detected it, hidden in the trees from where Zabuza had thrown his Zanbatsu. Gotcha! Naruto turned his attention to the fight and was surprised that Kakashi had already been captured. What the hell? I must have really been concentrating on finding Haku. Zabuza smirked underneath the bandages that covered his face. So much for Kakashi, he thought as he looked at the silver-haired Jonin in his water prison. Let's deal with the little nuisances, shall we? He did a few one-handed hand seals as a Mizu Bunshin rose from the water. Run! Your mission is to protect Tizuna. Kakashi yelled at his charges. Naruto smiled. Kakashi, once you were captured, my objective changed. Sasuke, Sakura, guard the old man. The two addressed by Naruto nodded as they stepped in front of Tizuna. Oh, and Zabuza, tell Haku to stop hiding. Zabuza's eyes widened when he heard Naruto say this. The blonde smiled as Zabuza's Mizu Bunshin suddenly exploded. I would also advise you to release my sensei, unless you want to face me in battle. Naruto smiled as he said this. Zabuza was a bit unnerved by the smiling blonde. He destroyed my Mizu Bunshin with a chakra pulse, one of that magnitude, and he isn't even affected by it. Then he sensed Haku. His smile isn't cocky, just sure of himself. He could be trouble. I would do what he says, Zabuza-sama. This one is different, a voice said from behind Naruto. Nice to finally meet you, Haku, said Naruto without looking behind him. You may know who I am. I, however, don't know who you are. Forgive me. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of the late Yondaime Hokage. Zabuza's eyes widened when he heard this. Minato, I remember that kid when he visited Kiri. So, are you going to release my sensei? Zabuza looked behind him to find the blonde standing there, smiling. He's fast. Sure, he said as he released the jutsu. Thanks, and now I have a proposition for you. What would that be, Naruto? Kakashi asked as he drew a kunai. Zabuza Momochi, I extend to you an invitation to join the ranks of Konoha Corps. Chapter 6, Time's Up. Naruto sighed as he woke up from a light nap. He stretched his arms, getting rid of any stiffness. Man, what a drag, he thought as he painfully popped his joints. Great, now I sound like Shikamaru. How troublesome. Naruto got out his sleeping bag that he had been sleeping in. He looked around the room to find it simple and plain. At least Tizuna's house isn't like some of the others in town. He stretched his back for a moment before grabbing the shirt by his sleeping bag and heading downstairs. Kakashi sat at the dinner table, reading Aika Paradise as he spoke to his two genin. So, as soon as Naruto wakes up from his nap, we'll begin our training. Why did you even let Naruto take a nap? Sasuke asked, slightly irritated that Kakashi had denied him his request for a nap. Naruto has done a lot today, a lot more than necessary, and therefore, he deserved a nap. Also, he was the one that was up last night on guard duty. Why do you ask him to do it alone? Sakura asked. He didn't came Naruto's voice. Sasuke and Sakura turn around to find Naruto dressed in mesh tank top with black shinobi pants. In his hand was a red t-shirt. Sakura was drooling at this point. She could see Naruto's muscular body underneath the tank top. Then she noticed something. "Hey Naruto, what's on your torso?" she asked as she got up to get a closer look. "Nothing," Naruto said quickly as he put the red shirt on. Kakashi looked over the top of his book to see what Sakura was talking about and only glimpsed a part of what seemed to be a tattoo. A tattoo? Interesting, it could be something more. Pushing the thought out of his mind, he snapped his book shut. "All right, you three, follow me. We have some training to do," he said with his eye smile. Kakashi had led the three of them into the forest near Tezuna's house. "Well, let's begin your training. Today, you will be learning how to climb trees." Sensei, I already know how to do that," Sakura said. "Maybe, but instead of normal tree climbing, you aren't allowed to use your hands." Like she said, Kakashi-sensei. "Already done," Naruto said. Sasuke wasn't following. "Wait, what guy's talking about?" Naruto sighed. "Sakura, why don't you demonstrate?" he asked. The pink-haired Kunoichi nodded as she walked toward a tree. Kakashi watched on curiously, wondering if they already knew the exercise. He was mildly surprised when Sakura started to scale the tree using chakra to walk parallel from the ground. "What do you know?" "So Naruto, do you know how as well?" Kakashi asked. Naruto nodded. "Pretty much. In fact, you should remember that when you were captured, I walked on water as well." Kakashi had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. "I may have been a bit caught up in the moment," he said sheepishly. Naruto waved him off. "It's all right. No sense in teaching Sakura water walking either. She can do it quite well." Kakashi nodded, surprised that his team was far along already. "What about you, Sasuke?" Kakashi asked the Uchiha. "Ow! How did Sakura get this far already?" Sasuke asked himself mentally. "No," he said darkly. "I see. Well, it's quite simple, really. Just direct your chakra to your feet to cling to the surface of the tree, and you walk." Sasuke nodded as Kakashi handed him a kunai. "To keep track of your progress," the Jonin said lazily when Sasuke looked at him quizzically. "Well then," Kakashi said as he rounded on Naruto and Sakura, who had rejoined the blonde on the ground. "What do I do with the two of you?" Sakura answered first. "Well, Naruto showed me a jutsu to try out for my affinity to water, so I was thinking of just working on that." Kakashi nodded. "Good, what jutsu would that be?" Sakura glanced at Naruto nervously, looking to see if it was okay to reveal to their sensei. She felt relief wash over her when Naruto gave her a fox-like grin and nodded. "Suetun Daibakufu, no jutsu," she said happily. Kakashi's visible eye widened slightly. "Really? Do you think you can handle such a powerful technique?" Naruto spoke up for Sakura. "I've been watching her train herself to exhaustion every morning and night when not with us. She's been making great progress, and I feel that the technique is great for her progress as a kunoichi." Sakura blushed at the confidence that Naruto had in her. A month ago, I wouldn't have thought I would hear him say anything like that. "Shinaro, Naruto-kun, I love you." This caused Sakura to blush brightly. Kakashi's eyebrows rose at this. Well, isn't this interesting?" Thanks, Naruto-kun." "What the hell? Did she just say what I think she said?" thought two male genin. Sasuke was gawking at the pink-haired kunoichi and then at Naruto, thinking one thing. "That's great, Naruto. One less fangirl on my back. Now, what can he do about the rest?" Naruto was confused for the first time in a very long time. "This is very new. I can't complain, but what the fuck?" Naruto shrugged off his shock and returned to the situation at hand. "Kakashi-sensei, I have a request." Kakashi looked over at the blonde. "Can you teach me the Chidori?" he asked. This took Kakashi by surprise. "Well, he's a smart kid and my mission reports from back in the day aren't under guard or anything, so he could have read of the technique, but I didn't think he would ask me that." "I don't know, Naruto. For the technique to work properly, you would need the Sharingan. Naruto nodded. I know that already, Kakashi-sensei. However, thanks to my condition, my eyes can match my reaction time no matter what. Even when my condition has passed, it will stay that way. Kakashi was once again taken aback by this response. Really? Well, there's only one way to find out if it's true. Fine with me then. Follow me. Sasuke, start climbing. Sakura, there's a beach over that way about a mile, he said as he pointed into the forest. With everyone given something to do, Kakashi walked away, Naruto following closely. Zabuza sat on his bed, wondering what to do about the blonde's offer. Flashback. You what? Kakashi asked, wide-eyed. You heard me. I'm inviting them to join Konohagakure. Are you kidding me, Gaki? Zabuza asked aggressively. This has to be a joke. Kakashi muttered. I'm sure that you and Haku are good people. I mean, I've heard a lot of the Mizukage, and I know that he must be corrupt. Zabuza nodded. Oh, you had better believe it, kid. Never saw his face much either. The one time he let the shawl down, he was wearing an orange spiral mask. Then again, so were most of his clan. Kakashi was confused. From what I heard, the Mizukage never came from clan. You must be pretty tired of running from the Hunter Nin as well. Zabuza's eyes widened. It's like this kid is reading my mind. I don't need an all-seeing eye or mirror wheel to notice the look in your eyes. Haku listened silently. Judging from this boy's tone of voice, he isn't lying to us or tricking us. Haku caught Zabuza's eye. Zabuza looks uneasy, as does Hatake. Thought the masked shinobi as his gaze shifted to Kakashi. We won't force you or anything, and it is quite a decision, so we shall give you a week to decide. Naruto motioned to Kakashi to follow him as he walked back to the shore. Flashback ends. Where's Haku right now? I need to talk to that kid, Zabuza said to himself. Kakashi was going over the same scene as Zabuza had been. Kakashi never got an explanation from the Naruto and wanted one, and now seemed like the best time. Naruto, he said as he came to a sudden stop. Naruto knew what was coming. Why did you invite Zabuza, the demon of the mist, to join or village? Naruto looked at Kakashi's back, as he hadn't even turned to look at Naruto. I had a premonition about this mission, he said simply. Kakashi wheeled around, facing the genin. Already? He's a bit young to be having premonitions. You already know that when a ninja sees the future somehow, some way, that it always comes to pass. I saw multiple outcomes that could happen if I let it. So, I chose the one with the least amount of bloodshed and with great prospects. Kakashi nodded, indicating to go on. Haku and Zabuza are good people, a little misled, but good. I don't want the two of them to die. Therefore, I will do everything I can to make sure that they live. Kakashi nodded. Well, that is quite a noble thing, Naruto. However, we are ninja, not samurai. We need to complete the mission, not make allies with someone we believe to be good. I know that Kakashi, it's just that I know that it would be best if these two would join our forces. Think about it. One of the greatest Kenjutsu users in the world, in Konoha, willing to pass on his teachings. Yes, but there is a reason that he is called the Demon of the Mist. I already know the reason, and I really don't see the cause to worry. It was a graduation exercise that was thankfully disbanded, mostly thanks to Zabuza. I mean, look at Haku. He can't be much older than I am, and yet, he's traveling with Zabuza safely. Kakashi was silent for a moment when Naruto spoke up again. If you still doubt me, then ask Haku himself. he said, nodding behind the copy Nin. Kakashi whirled around to come face to face with a feminine-looking person. Naruto-san. Vato. They looked at each other for a moment before Kakashi broke the silence. Do you have an answer already? Haku shook his head. No, I simply wanted to meet Naruto-san here to see if what he said was actually possible. Naruto nodded. It is. I talked to the Sandaime Hokage before coming on this mission, and he told me that there was a chance that you could join. A chance? Well, for Zabuza, there's a chance. For you, I'm sure they would accept you right away, especially since you have a bloodline. Haku's head snapped up. How do you know that? Your chakra feels like Sasuke's. Naruto replied with a grin. Sasuke is my dark-haired teammate, and he is also an Uchiha. Uchiha, that unfortunate clan. Konoha is a big fan of Kekkei Genkai. Haku nodded. I see. I truly do want to join. But if Zabuza says no, then I will have to decline as well. Naruto nodded. Well, I'm sure he will say yes in the end. How can you be sure? Well, he may have been dubbed the Demon of the Mist by his own village. My village has called me a demon on many occasions. I'm sure that I can figure out a way to convince Zabuza. Haku nodded. Well, I thank you for this meeting, Naruto. Naruto watched as Haku spun around and walked away. Before Haku was out of earshot, Naruto called out. When Haku, I can tell you're a girl. Your chakra is too similar to Sakura's. Kakashi's eye widened and Haku stopped dead in her tracks. Silence ruled the small clearing that they were in for a solid 5 minutes before Haku spoke once more in her feminine voice. Don't tell Zabuza-sama. He doesn't know. Haku disatbath. Naruto grinned at this. I always thought he was too feminine to be a guy. Kakashi was eyeing the spot where the female had disappeared and then turned to look at Naruto. Being around this kid is getting to be very interesting. Kakashi watched the blonde as he thought of something. Well then, Naruto, let's begin. The blonde nodded as he brought his attention back to the situation at hand. Well, the Chidori is an extremely powerful and complicated move Kakashi started. It's just a jab with flesh activation, Kakashi-sensei. This kid is pretty smart. Yes, it is, but I don't think you know much about flesh activation, so I guess we'll start on that. Sasuke had just gotten back to Tezuna's house to find the rest of his team sitting at the dinner table with Tezuna and Inari. There's that brat again, thought the Uchiha. What are you looking at? The Uchiha snapped. He was angry enough that he was behind on his training compared to his two teammates. Sasuke, don't talk to Inari like that. Naruto snapped. Shut up, Blondie, Inari shouted. Naruto replied with a glare. Sakura sighed. Here we go again. Shinaro, this kid is a total brat. Why do you even try? Gato will only kill you. Naruto increased the glare with some killer intent. You think you have it so tough, that you're the only kid in the world that has a heart. Well, at least you have a mother that takes care of you. Inari only glared at the blonde in anger. So did you, I bet. Naruto snapped, letting his altering hormones take control as he pinned Inari against the wall faster than Kakashi could react. Shut up, you little brat. You want to know what kind of life I lived. By the time I was 8, I had nearly lost my life 73 times to my fellow villagers. I was an orphan on the streets because the orphanage had kicked me out when I was 3, and I didn't even know who my parents were. Then, to top it all off, if a child ever was friendly to me, their parents ordered them to ignore me. Now compare our lives and tell me who has it worse. Naruto threw Inari to the ground and stormed out of the house. Kakashi was still surprised for a number of reasons. He was thrown out of the orphanage? He knew how many assassination attempts there were. Kakashi had just lost even more respect for his home village. Sakura was surprised at everything Naruto had said. He still smiles at everybody, though. Sasuke was surprised for the same reasons as Kakashi, only he wasn't aware of the assassination attempts until now. Inari was crying. Everything he had just heard, it seemed like a lie, and yet he knew that it was true. Is he telling the truth? Tsunami asked. Kakashi looked up to see the mother. She's been here at least since Naruto lost his temper. I'm afraid so. You see, Naruto was hated for something he had no control over. In fact, he probably still is. The only reason he never died was because our Hokage had put him under ANBU protection from time to time. How is he such a carefree person? Tazuna asked. He doesn't hold a grudge against those that have wronged him in the past and never will. He wants to become the leader of our village just as his father once was. Why? Tsunami asked. To protect the home that he loves, Kakashi said with a tone of finality. He looked over to where Inari was to find that he had disappeared. I'll go talk to your son, clear things up. Kakashi got out of his seat and left the kitchen. He wandered through the house and out to the deck. He saw Inari sitting on the edge, looking at his reflection in the sea water underneath him. Kakashi approached the young boy. May I sit? Inari only nodded, silent tears running down his face. Kakashi sat next to the boy, his feet now submerged in the cool liquid of the sea. Naruto didn't mean to snap like that. He's just going through a lot lately, and it's starting to show. So, it's all true. Kakashi sighed. It is. I was one of the people that had to save him a few times. Inari felt more tears welling up in his eyes. He doesn't hate you. Inari looked up at the masked man. He never will either. That boy is incapable of hatred. Kakashi then thought back to the Torah missions. Well, unless you're a certain cat, he said with a smile. Inari only looked confused, but Kakashi didn't explain. Naruto only hates it when people underestimate how much pain others have been through. He won't judge that person, but he will yell for a moment. In fact, he probably feels bad about it and is trying to figure out a way to apologize right now, he said happily. Inari smiled. He knows what happened to your father. Inari's head snapped to Kakashi. We all heard about it, and I know that it probably hurts, but remember that you still have your mother and your grandfather to help you. Inari nodded, thinking about how to apologize to the powerful and temperamental blonde ninja. Naruto went through the hand seals again. Come on, he yelled mentally at himself. I'm close, I can feel it. He saw that his hand was gathering some of the lightning-based chakra, but not enough. Damn it, he yelled when the jutsu fizzled out. He went through the set of hand seals again, pumping a bit more chakra into the jutsu. However, the results were the same. Right-on jutsu are as hard as ever. Naruto sat down for a moment to concentrate and figure out what he was doing wrong. Kakashi said to start off slow, and I am, but I needed to stay alive for more than a few seconds to keep going. He had already tried pumping more chakra into it to keep it alive, but he would keep canceling the jutsu out. At least I can do it better now than in my own time, thought an amused yet infuriated Namikaze. Then, Naruto felt a chakra signature in the distance. Who's that? He asked himself. He got up as he felt the signature suppress itself. It's familiar, but who? Naruto concentrated on the chakra signal as it headed towards town. I can't tell who it is, but it definitely isn't a Konoha shinobi. Naruto took off towards the town. Kakashi arrived at the training spot that Naruto had been just minutes before. It's too late for him to be out here, thought the copy Nin. He narrowed his eyes, trying to adjust to the darkness that had taken over in the sun's absence. He's not here, but what's this? Kakashi felt Naruto's chakra flare a bit. He's not fighting, but something is happening, thought Kakashi as he took off in the direction he felt his student's chakra. Naruto arrived in the desolate streets of Wave. A few people littered the streets here and there to have a roof over their heads. Fucking Gato, this time, it'll be me that kills you. Suddenly, he felt the same chakra signature not far from his current location. Gotcha, he thought as he took off in that direction, suppressing his own chakra. He was jumping from rooftop to rooftop when he saw it. A figure in a black and silver cloak. The figure clearly sensed the young Namikaze as it took off in a seemingly random direction. Naruto continued after it, unafraid of what might happen. Naruto then noticed where they were headed. The bridge. Kakashi was now visibly panicking. He had felt the same chakra as Naruto, and he had felt it before. He couldn't place where, only that it couldn't be good. The two signatures that he was now trailing were headed towards the client's bridge. Is it one of Gato's goons? He increased his speed to catch up. Naruto had the figure cornered at the edge of the bridge. Who are you? Naruto asked. The figure stood silently, looking across the large gap between the main land and the bridge. I'm talking to you, Naruto yelled. The figure turned towards the Jinchuriki. It held up its hand, palm facing Naruto, who quickly got into a defensive stance. With the other hand, it went through a few one-handed seals before Naruto was surrounded by a tornado of fire. Naruto glared the vortex of fire he was in. This is way too familiar. He ran through his own seals. Suetun Sujin Hiki, he called out as a large amount of water blasted from Naruto's mouth and created a tornado within a tornado. The fire hit the large vortex of water and exploded into steam. Naruto bolted forward just in time to see the figure jump off the bridge. Shit, he watched as the figure hit the water far below. Naruto! A voice called out before Naruto could dive in after the person. Naruto turned around to find his sensei watching him. Oh, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi walked to the edge of the bridge and stood next to Naruto, looking down at the water, searching for the mysterious person. Who was that? He asked his student. Good question. I wish I knew. I just felt something familiar about the person and followed their chakra signature. They seem to be hiding it quite well at this point, Kakashi pointed out to Naruto. He nodded. I can't feel it anymore. So, feeling any better? He asked. Naruto nodded again. Yeah, I had to get rid of my frustration somehow, and failing the Chidori seemed like a good idea. Need any help? Kakashi asked. Naruto shook his head. Well, I'm here if you do. I know Kakashi-sensei. I just think I figured it out, though. With that, Naruto turned around and started heading back to Tezuna's. First things first, sleep, yawned Naruto. God damn it, Sakura! Yelled a sopping wet Naruto. Sakura grinned as she looked over at the large, empty basin she had dragged upstairs. I got that jutsu down now, she said. I can see that, but using it to wake me up was a bit unethical. Sakura only grinned. Why didn't you use it on Sasuke instead? Sakura was silent. Is it because he's your Sasuke-kun? He asked. Sakura shook her head as she blushed. I wanted to have you be proud of me, she thought. Oh, I wanted to show you, she said as she got redder. Oh, well, I guess that's fine, but next time, use warmer water. Sakura nodded as she grinned mischievously. Naruto got out of his sleeping bag, and Sakura felt herself flush. Naruto was shirtless. Sakura couldn't take it anymore and fainted. Okay then. Naruto shrugged, walking out of the room, leaving Sakura with her perverted thoughts. Naruto sat down at the table, noticing that Sasuke was already gone. He's training right now, came Kakashi's voice. How far up? Asked Naruto. Halfway up. Naruto nodded as he watched Tsunami cooking. I need to get my mind out of the gutter, thought as staring Naruto as Tsunami continued to cook with her back turned to him. Kakashi noticed Naruto staring at something and followed his eye line before smirking. So Naruto, he let it linger in the air. Naruto glanced at the Jonin and noticed the way he was looking at him. Shit, I just got caught. What he didn't notice was the grin that Tsunami was sporting as she looked at the reflection in the mirror. She knew that the boy was off limits, seeing as how he was only 13, but she was only 23 and had a chance in a few years. For the rest of that day, Tsunami had a large grin plastered on her face. Naruto, I have a book recommendation for you, Kakashi stated quite enthusiastically. Damn you, Kyubi. Naruto was back at the training field he had found the day before. Naruto was sweating slightly and was thankful that he was in a GI that day. The GI that he had been wearing was torn in several places. He had also thankfully brought a spar, not wanting his sensei of a certain tattoo he was sporting. He ran through the hand seals one more time. Chidori, he yelled as he charged the lightning chakra into his palm. He had finally mastered his sensei's original technique. He watched in fascination as electricity danced around his right hand, creating a chirping noise. Then, a new noise joined it. It sounded like clapping. Naruto let the jutsu die out as he turned around to face his lazy teacher. I am impressed, Naruto. All I did was show you the seals and what it looked like, and you finished it in 24 hours exactly. Naruto grinned. So, can you only do it with your right hand? Kakashi asked with his patented eye smile. Kinda. I've done it with my left hand, but it wastes more chakra and it's harder to control. Kakashi nodded. I suggest perfecting it with your left hand now. Once you've done that, I might teach you the next level to that technique. The Raikiri? I thought that was the Chidori, just a different name for it. Kakashi went back to his lazy demeanor. That's what many have said, but the Raikiri is easier to control and is at least 3 times deadlier than the Chidori. It increases your speed, pierces through nearly anything, and can be used in a slashing motion, while the Chidori is a thrusting motion. Naruto nodded. He hadn't known of the differences until now. I should get going on it then, Naruto proclaimed loudly as he ran through the hand seals yet again. Kakashi chuckled. Nearly a mirror image of Minato-sensei. One moment he's completely serious, the next he's totally carefree. Not to mention, he's extremely gifted with ninjutsu. While you do that, I'm going to check up on the others. Oh, and Naruto. Naruto looked up from the failed Chidori from his left hand. You don't have to hinge the bunshins you keep sending to the bridge. I can see straight through them. Naruto chuckled nervously. Sorry, sensei. I'm just kind of paranoid. Kakashi nodded. That's fine, but just letting you know that you don't have to hinge them to help out with working there. Kakashi then took off into the trees, heading to Sasuke's position. Naruto smiled and was about to continue his training when he sensed danger. He quickly pulled a kunai out of its holster on his leg and knocked the 6th shuriken aimed at his head out of the air. He grabbed the shuriken before they hit the ground and threw them back at the trees. He heard the 6th shuriken hit the tree in a squeal of fear. What is it, Sakura? He asked. The pink-haired Kunoichi appeared from the shadows of the tree, looking slightly fearful. I meant to miss, so don't worry about it. This seemed to calm Sakura down. Oh, thanks. So, what is it? Naruto asked politely. Well, I was wondering if I could spar with you. Naruto looked at Sakura for a moment, trying to get eye contact. Sakura kept looking down at her feet, occasionally looking up at the blonde, only to look back down in embarrassment. Finally, Naruto answered. No, not for a while. Sakura was about to complain when Naruto continued. The only form of taijutsu you know is the academy style, which can easily be beaten by my style. Then, I already know the jutsu you know, and your most power ninjutsu is lacking seeing as how you still don't have the complete hang of it. Then jinjutsu won't work on me, because I can easily overpower any jinjutsu you throw at me, because they're academy jinjutsu. Sakura deflated more and more as Naruto listed the reasons. However, I have a different proposition for you. Ask Kakashi-sensei to teach you a taijutsu style, one that would work well with Suidan jutsu, or maybe medical ninjutsu, seeing as how I could see you using that kind of jutsu with your chakra control. I want you to be prepared when we actually spare one another. I want to see something surprising from you, Sakura. Not predictable, and nearly everything in your arsenal is exactly that. Predictable. Sakura nodded. He's only trying to help me. Kakashi went that way, so I suggest going after him and asking. Sakura nodded and was about to leave when Naruto spoke up once more. Oh, and one more thing. Nice throw with the shuriken. Sakura smiled as she walked in the direction that Naruto had pointed towards. At least I can throw well. Naruto sighed. At least she's progressing faster than last time. Naruto popped his back and went back to training his Chidori. Kakashi watched in amusement, hidden in the trees, as Sasuke continued his attempt at climbing the tree. Here I was ready to believe that Sasuke was the best on this team, and yet, the supposed dead last is the one learning my own original ninjutsu. Then Sakura is constantly training since the bell test and is learning a powerful Suidan jutsu that Naruto taught her. This world is full of surprises. Hey, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi smirked underneath his mask. Her stealth has also gone up. Yes, Sakura, he asked without looking to the pink-haired girl on his left. I need some help. The week passed by quickly for Naruto. He had surprised his lazy sensei one day by activating 2 Chidori at once in both hands. When asked how he had done it without the use of seals, he shrugged and said, a shitload of chakra and a lot of concentration. Of course, Naruto had then deactivated the jutsu and asked that he have lunch brought to him since he had been doing that so often that day that he was nearly out of limitless chakra. Even the Namikaze had his limits. Of course, he didn't deplete his chakra reservoir. That would have led to some problems with his 10-inch transfer of power. Sasuke had made up the tree on the 5th day of training and was given the last 2 to rest. Sakura had continued her training on the jutsu Naruto, had given her along with taijutsu training with Kakashi, who knew of the perfect taijutsu style that could work with any long-range techniques. Tazuna was also making great progress with the bridge. The first day in Wave, Naruto had pulled him aside and told him about the Kage Bunshin technique and that he would help the building process using that technique. So every day, 50 Narutos would be at the bridge, doing whatever Tazuna ordered them to do. Finally, it had been a full week since meeting Zabuza, and they were all going to the bridge. Well, almost all of them. Naruto told them to go ahead with a few Bunshin of his while he stayed back for an hour to deal with something. When asked, he told them not to worry about it and that he would be fine. Inari was fast asleep at the moment, having been up all night, spying on the Kage Bunshin that Naruto used to scout the area at night while they were all asleep. Tsunami was downstairs with Naruto in the kitchen, both of them flirting a bit with each other. Sure, Naruto was only 13 and Tsunami was a decade older than him, but he was technically from the future. Plus, it wasn't like anything was going to happen between the two, right? So, how strong are you compared to Kakashi? She asked with a blush. Good question, Naruto said as he shrugged. Honestly, I would say we were even. If we were to fight, well, I think he would win because he's had more experience in the field. Tsunami smiled at the boy. He doesn't seem arrogant, that's good. Then, she noticed Naruto's facial expression. That's more than last time, he whispered. Tsunami was about to ask what he meant when the front door seemed to explode. Naruto disappeared from Tsunami's sight. She whirled around to see him with a sword out. The same sword that her father had told her about. One of the 9. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the 2 swordsmen that he had defeated in his own time. This time, however, they were accompanied by what seemed to be 6 missing nin from Kiri. So, more missed ninja. You don't look like much compared to Zabuza. The 2 samurai were about to remark that a teenager was going to be easy to handle when they saw the sword shift slightly. Teach that sword, one of them said. That's right. This is the Chakra Hiketsu, one of the 9. As soon as the words left Naruto's mouth, he disappeared and the 2 samurai fell to the floor dead. The 6 missing nin looked around wildly until they spotted the blonde, standing on the water behind them. Naruto smirked at what they were wearing. They all had the same outfit as Zabuza. Wow, so Zabuza has fanboys. That's scary. I feel sorry for the guy. The missing nin seemed angry at this comment and charged him, blinded by anger. Naruto smirked, still holding his blade. I'll make this quick. He threw the blade into the air and ran through a few hand seals. Let's see how fun this is, thought Naruto, as he felt the hand seals guide his chakra. Chidori. Naruto smiled at the chirping sound the technique made as he stood there impassively, watching the 6 ninja approach him. He lowered himself into a running position. This'll be electrifying, he declared confidently. In his mind, however, he was berating himself. What the hell? That sounded so fucking lame. Something Guy might say. Wait a second. Shit, I have to stop hanging out with those 2. Naruto charged forward, smirking at the fact that none of the enemy had even taken out a kunai. His hand tore through the closest enemy. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the odd sensation that the Chidori gave his hand when it happened. I'll ask Kakashi about that later. Then he changed his direction, going for the farthest nin to his left. He charged through him as well and made a quick U-turn, heading towards the next victim. Inside the house, Tsunami was watching in fascination as each enemy suddenly collapsed as a chirping noise filled the air. It sounded like birds. Then, she felt someone behind her. She turned around only to be slapped. Naruto had dealt with the last ninja and watched as the lifeless bodies floated in the sea. Naruto sighed. I don't like killing, but they deserved it. He turned and held his hand out, catching his large sword that he had thrown into the air not more than 6 seconds earlier. He sealed it back into the scroll. He kept it in and walked back to the house when he heard a scream. Naruto's eyes widened. Damn, I missed that one. Naruto jumped towards the house and landed on the deck to find a large man wearing jeans and a Chunin vest. He had a Konoha headband with a slash through it. The man looked at Naruto only for his eyes to widen. Why? Your sup's supposed to be dead. Naruto smirked. Sorry to disappoint. Naruto looked down at Tsunami to see that she was being held by her long hair. I suggest that you let go of her. The man sneered. Why? I get a lot of money from Gato if I give her to him. Naruto stared at the man before shaking his head. Yeah, and if you don't let go of her in the next 3 seconds, I'm going to give the Shinigami a present. Naruto watched the man's reaction. He looked down at Tsunami and sneered again. Wasn't this guy afraid of me a second ago? I'd like to see you try. Naruto sighed as he held up his right hand. Fine by me, he said as he molded his chakra in the palm of his hand. The missing Nin from Konoha watched as the boy in front of him created a Rasengan. Now that Tsunami's safe, you'll be leaving now. The man looked down in confusion to see that he was now holding a piece of paper. Then he noticed the paper had a seal on it, and the paper exploded in his hand. Naruto released the Jin Jutsu he had put over the man, revealing that the house was about 40 feet away and that they were next to the forest. Naruto watched the man talking to a squirrel before the explosive note went off. Tsunami was being carried by Naruto, bridal style, as she watched the blonde in fascination. She looked down to see that he was also standing on the water. So this is what a ninja can do. Naruto looked down at Tsunami. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? Tsunami stared at the blonde before doing something she would always dream about afterwards. She kissed her savior. Naruto had nearly lost his concentration and nearly sent the two of them into the water when she did this, as his mouth had been open and she had taken advantage of that. Then, he found himself enjoying it, perhaps a little too much, as he forgot about what was probably happening at the bridge. Tsunami pulled away from Naruto when she realized just what she had done. Sorry, she mumbled. Naruto just smiled at the woman in his arms. It's okay. It was just a kiss, right? She nodded. I need to go, so. Naruto jumped towards the house, landed on the deck, and let her down. This'll all be over soon. Kakashi sighed when they arrived at the bridge, thinking one thing. Naruto's Bunshin had run out of chakra and dispersed at that moment. I really hate this damn technique. Around them was a thick mist, much like their first encounter, only this time without the blonde zoning out. So, Zabuza, he. I see you still have those two brats with you. Where's the Namikaze? Zabuza asked, out of everyone's sight, hidden in the mist. He's on his way, just had a few errands to run. Zabuza smirked. I see. Well, then I guess I need to give you my answer. Kakashi sensed it coming and nodded to Sasuke. Go ahead, Sasuke. Sasuke smirked when he disappeared at the exact moment when 7 Zabuzas appeared. Then, they exploded into water, Sasuke reappearing with kunai in each hand. Impressive show of speed. Wouldn't you agree, Haku? Hi, Zabuza-sama. I guess the answer is no. Kakashi sighed. Zabuza chuckled. Very observant Kakashi. Kakashi raised his Itaiate, uncovering his Sharingan. Well, I guess we need to finish our last fight, he said. Indeed we do, Kakashi. Hatu, go after the Uchiha. So Haku told him about Sasuke. Thought Kakashi. Sakura, protect Tazuna, Kakashi said as he jumped forward, deeper into the mist. Sakura nodded her head as she pulled out a kunai in one hand and 3 shuriken in the other. Naruto was jumping from tree to tree, trying to get there as fast as he could. Damn, feels like they said no. Naruto could feel Zabuza's and Haku's chakra signatures from his position. Well then, time for plan B. It's nearly time. I need to get there quickly. Naruto pushed chakra into his feet to help his progress quicken. Sasuke was feeling confident at the moment. He had escaped his opponent's last attack that had been set up by Sasuke himself by killing those Mizu Bunshin. He was faster than his opponent, and he could feel something happening to him that he knew was good, but he couldn't explain it. Then, things went downhill. Haku had preformed some seals, and the water around them had transformed into a dome of ice mirrors. Sasuke looked at the hunter, Nin look-alike. What is this jutsu? As if reading his mind, Haku answered the Uchiha. This is my bloodline, he stated simply as he stepped into one of the mirrors in front of Sasuke. When he did this, his image was projected into all of the mirrors. Sasuke was thrown off by this move. Damn, he muttered. Where's Naruto when you need him? Haku looked at the dark-haired boy before readying his Sunbon needles. It is time. Sakura noticed the fog growing thicker for a moment and then clanging sounds. Zabuza and Kakashi must be fighting, she muttered. Then, she heard what she had been waiting for.